Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Antique Nomad Live. This is the first of what I hope will be a fun new channel. I am glad to have you with us, and let's see who all is here. I'm going to try to keep up with the chat as much as I can. I see Queen of Hearts, and I noticed you mentioned you're going to try to get to the Centralia Appraisal Fair, and that would be great. I'm looking forward to doing more appraisal fairs, and those of you who just saw my regular video on my regular channel, well, that was an appraisal fair, and that's kind of what they look like. They vary. Some of the next one I'm doing is in Florida, and it's already sold out. It's a big crowd, but that's a different animal. Let's see who's all here. Lenny Pie is here. I Eclectic, hello. Kevin, you wanted the best, you got the best. Well, thank you very much. Oh, gosh, you were talking about me. I thought you were talking about you, Kevin. Teofane, nice to have you here. And Oodalali, I'm glad you found the live. And Bree is here. Margaret is here. Blackberry Thistle is here. It's great to have you all. I see Susan White out there. Sandra L. Rosie, hi, nice to see you. I'm glad your show went well last weekend. I knew it'd be a great one. I wish I'd been able to get out to Colorado to do it with you, but the show in Michigan was good too. Alice Goes Nomad is here, and LaDonna. We got to chat with LaDonna in the main channel. And Five Mon Hall is here. That's great. Hi, Kat. Can't stay long. Just wanted to check in and subscribe. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We will be doing more live content, and as things evolve, that will grow into all sorts of directions, I'm sure. Hopefully there will be guest appearances, and I'm going to talk about announcements, and we're going to do some small live sales tonight, so that'll be something to look forward to. We're going to try a couple different things tonight as far as live sales. I'm experimenting a little bit because things will change once we get 1,000 subscribers to the Antique Nomad Live. Then we'll be able to go remote, and my hope is to be able to do a lot of things from my storehouse, to be able to go live maybe at a show or to show you a haul so that you can see things when they're fresh. I also am looking forward to seeing what other opportunities there are with this. Debbie from Chicago, it's nice to have you here. Thank you. And I see Felicity Fines, I believe I'm reading. Suzanne Crabtree is here. Thank you, Suzanne. And
okay, we do have a question from I for Eclectic. Would love to know if you do any near Washington, Idaho.
Washington, Idaho. I'm not sure which part of Idaho that is, but I will tell you a little bit about
Washington/Idaho.
Okay, yes, I see. Okay, very good. Xenomorph is helping me. Very, very thankful to have him here with the controls. This will make this a much smoother experience than if I were trying to do it myself. I do an appraisal fair in Centralia, Washington each year. That'll be August 7th to 8th. That's halfway between Seattle and Portland. I am planning on selling at the Custer's Antique Show, which is supposed to start up again at the beginning of October of this year, but I don't do appraisals there. I think they actually have an appraisal booth there at that show, though. So that's a place that you can come for appraisals, and you can certainly come to see me and bring a couple of things. I'd be glad to take a look. Lisa Holbrook is here. Hello, Lisa. And Superior Girl Vintage. If I've mentioned you before or not mentioned you, I apologize. The chat rolls right along, and I'm doing my best. This part of the thing, having a live channel, is getting used to going live. So this is somewhat new for me. I've been on a few things, but I haven't really done it myself much. So.
And Lenny Pie is asking, do we need tickets for Centralia?
No, Centralia is going to be a walk-up, and you'll just be served in the order that you're there. They're having an antique show that weekend out on the main streets, and unless it's ghastly hot or raining, I will be out on the street under a tent as well. And so you'll just be able to come up and take a look, and if I'm not ready for you, you can sign up on a list and you can go shop around and come back, and I'll have an idea of when I can see you. Generally, appraisal fairs, it's funny how the traffic and the amount of time available usually just seem to work out somehow. So come take a look. Also, because it'll be outdoors, people are welcome to come and sit around. I do some appraisal fairs where they set up chairs and it turns into a big crowd event and everybody gets to watch. So that is certainly welcome as well. Froggy is here. Hello there. And let's see here. Okay, well, I guess to start out, since the Eclectic Deb's here. Hi there. I just wanted to say hello.
Anything in Mississippi or Alabama?
I would love to do stuff in those states as well. I haven't yet. There is a show in Fairhope that is supposed to be a good show. I am, as far as appraisal fairs go, I typically am hired on an honorarium basis, meaning they pay me, some organization pays me a fee to make an appearance, and I do antique appraisals. And I've done them for everything from Grange halls to senior centers. And then they charge a fee to help offset the cost or as a fundraiser for their programs. So I could do an appraisal fair just about anywhere. And because I do go towards Mississippi and Alabama, if someone there were to need me to do that sort of work, I would be available for it. So it is entirely possible I could do an appraisal fair anywhere. And that's just how that works.
And Lisa Holbrook is asking, when is the next show in Kentucky? And that would be Burlington.
Yes, that's right. This coming weekend. We're hoping it's not going to rain or not rain much. Last year in August, it was beautiful weather, and then at 1 o'clock, it rained for 30 minutes, and half the people ran off, and then it was beautiful again, and it ended up being a fantastic show. So unless there's going to be heavy, heavy rain, I will be in Burlington this Sunday, and that is a great show. It's a one-day show. It's in a fairgrounds in Boone County, which is a very small county next to a bunch of very big counties. And also, while you're there, you can hit the Florence Antique Mall, which is having their going out of business sale. I understand they lost their lease because someone's buying the building. It's a problem when you open an antique mall and a strip mall and you don't own the real estate, as you can get priced out, and that's what's happened to them, unfortunately.
Do you know anything about them reopening?
In Florence?
The Florence Antique Mall, yeah.
Yeah, there is a rumor that they will reopen in another location, but I haven't heard where or when at this point. So when I go this weekend, I hope to check that out on my way and see if they are indeed going to relocate to another spot. There are other antique malls in the area as well, so maybe dealers will just end up going there, or they'll bring things to the show. And let's see. So I guess since the Antique Nomad, the regular channel tonight, was about appraisals, let's go ahead and play an appraisal game. And I don't know if you're able to get that first picture up there, but I want you all to play along so you can answer in the comments. I'm going to show you a chair here, and let's talk about how much this tattered old chair is worth. And let's see. So if you saw this chair, go ahead and put in the comments. What would you think that this chair would sell for if you saw it at a thrift store or a garage sale or some place that is doing an orderly liquidation of things, not holding on to it, just want to get rid of it? What do you think this sort of beaten up old chair would sell for? I'll look at the comments and see if any of you can hazard a guess. Okay, well, someone said 2,000 right off the top. Someone said 100, 200, $50, $20, 10, 100, 80, 50 to 100, 25. Okay, very good. A lot of a wide range of guesses there. So let's talk about why things are a different price depending where you sell them, because a lot of you could be right depending on the situation. If you saw that particular beaten up old chair in a garage sale, you might expect to pay between $15 and $25 for it because it's got to be reupholstered. It probably needs new springs. It might be loose. It might need re-gluing. So it's going to need some help. Now, in an antique store, as is, you might see it for double that price because the dealer bought it figuring they were going to do something with it, and they haven't, and they just want to get rid of it. But they're going to liquidate it at an as-is retail price, and that might be $45 or $50. So Kevin says, nailed it. Yes, that's true. And yet it isn't. And there's a reason for that, and that is because then we go up to the next value, which is fair market value. What if you got that fixed and then waited for a buyer and a seller who knew the same thing to come to a conclusion? Well, if it was restored, it might be 125 to 225 in the places I sell. If rockers are popular where you sell, they might be worth more. Then what would you do for insurance? If you got it all fixed and you bought it for, let's say, 225 and you put it in your house, well, what if your house caught fire and it burned down? Then what's it worth? Well, that's a horrible situation to contemplate, but as an appraiser, I've run into that. I had a gal who had a fire in her house, and we had to sit for about an hour a day. It was all she could handle. It was so sad. We had to pretend she was walking into her house and ask her what used to be on the right, what used to be on the left, what was in the trunk, and go through the whole house that way because they had no inventory or video. Take a video of your stuff, by the way, and put it off site or save it to the cloud. But say that it was an insurance situation. Well, the insurance company is going to say, we just want you to go get one wherever you can find one that's nice and suits you and get the claim over with. So they might pay 325 or 350 for it. So which value is right? And that's the big question when you're doing appraisals. Anybody have a notion of what the right value is after all of that? That is worth top dollar cost to replacing a fire. Yes. Well, okay, I have to come clean on this one.
Well, we had a couple of people say, let me go back here. We did have someone that thought that it was the Lincoln rocking chair.
Very good. I figured somebody would find me out. And yes, that is the case. This tattered, beaten rocking chair that we have been talking about is actually the chair that Abraham Lincoln was sitting in when he was assassinated at Ford's Theater. I was just at the Henry Ford Museum after the show the other day. I stayed over with my friend and we went there, and I'll put a video out about it. It's an amazing place if you love old things, so it's going to be fun. Very somber moment seeing that chair in person. Henry Ford paid $2,400 for it back in the 1920s. It's inestimable what the value is because of provenance, and that's something that you can't see just looking at the piece. So it really wasn't fair for me to ask that question, but whoever guessed it was the Lincoln chair, you are correct. And if it were to go to auction, it would no doubt sell for millions and millions, and who knows, because it hasn't been on the market for 100 years. So but that is how appraisals work. It depends on the position. I'll give you $2. Well, yeah, if it were mine, well, no. Anyway, that is how appraisals work. They depend on the time, the place, the conditions of the sale. If you say it wasn't Lincoln's chair and your wife says, if you don't clear all that stuff out of the garage, I'm leaving you, well, then the price is probably free. And that's another value. That's called a forced liquidation value. I have to get rid of this now. And sometimes that price is zero. So when we talk about appraisals, there's values and there's values. And the value of the same thing can be different in different circumstances in different places. So there's not just one number. And to that end, let's take a look, if we can, at the website. I've just started a new website. It's, of course, the antiquenomad.com. And you're welcome to go there anytime, and it talks about some of the general services that I do. Let's take a look at the appraisals, because that's kind of the zone we're in right now. And when I speak of appraisals, here we go. So first of all, I disagree with Dr. Lori when she says that a dealer should not be an appraiser. I agree with her completely that an appraiser should never make an offer to buy on an item that they're appraising. It is an absolute conflict of interest. Dealers can make really good appraisers because we have a lot of experience and we know a lot about a lot of things. It's just that you have to be trained in standards and practices and ethics, and part of that ethical situation is that if you're an appraiser, you're not wearing another hat. I wanted to point to the second paragraph here because I've had a lot of requests and questions from people in the viewer groups asking if I can help them with particular items, single items, and I do have a format to do that now, and I've tried to figure out a way to make it reasonable and useful. The truth is most people who are doing resale can do their own research, but sometimes they're tricky areas. An artist with an illegible signature, something really odd that you haven't seen before where there isn't a ready comparable. And so sometimes there's a moment where you might need that sort of help. Other people, sometimes it's just family curiosity, or they have an item that they're trying to deal with between relatives, that sort of thing.
And he is referring to the accredited appraisals at an affordable price. He said second paragraph. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Yeah, I wasn't clear about that. And so what I'm doing for single item verbal evaluations is starting at a $20 base if you have something that you think is unusual and rare and need the help and just are stumped. It's something I'd be glad to help with if I can. Some things we can do over pictures and over the computer, and some we can't. But let's look at some examples, because I do have a couple of pieces that someone's already sent in to have this done. So let's take a look at the first one, which is this charcoal looking face drawing. It is a modernist piece. It is not actually charcoal, though. We'll get it up here in just a minute for you to see. It's actually what we call an aqua tint. And what an aqua tint is if you have a copper plate engraving, for example, you're going to see lots of lines, and that's going to tell you that it is an engraving on a plate. But they wanted to make things that looked a little smoother than that and still could be done in a printing reproduction process. So one of the things they invented was aqua tint. And what that does is the plate presses the image, but then the ink is distributed so it's light on the high parts of the surface of the paper after they press the image in, and then it pools in the bottom part. So it looks like a continuous piece, like a painting or a charcoal drawing, but it is in fact a form of printing. And so this particular piece, the person sent in because they could not make out the signature, and I ended up having her open the back of the piece so that we could see if there was more information. We had to actually take the piece out, and it turned out that there was. And the signature is Stanislaw Dawski, who was a Polish artist, and he was very well known in the East and not too well known in the West. So it's unusual that this piece showed up in her Goodwill. She paid $2.99 for it and wanted to list it, but wasn't sure how. So the conclusion we came to is he was alive from 1910 to 1990, and because the Soviets still dominated Eastern Europe at that time, he wasn't as well known in this part of the world, but he's rather well known in Europe. And comparable sales at auctions in Europe are in the $200 range. So she got a nice deal for her $2 investment, I guess $22 because she had us look at it, but now she knows what she's got. So that made me happy that we were able to do that for her. And you notice, even though this is a viewer who sent this in, I'm not speaking of names. An appraisal is a private matter. If you're at a fair or a show where it's being recorded, that's one thing, but we don't divulge customer information in the appraisal business. It's part of, again, our ethics and standards. And actually, in certain places in Central Europe, that could go for as much as $400, but we figure in this country more likely $2 to $2.25 because he's not as well known. There's one other one that was sent to me as well, and let's take a look at that. It's also a piece of art. Art and prints do seem to be places where people get hung up easily because there's a lot to know. And this next piece is a Matisse. And if you read it, it says, I'll massacre the French. I'm sorry to all my francophiles. Les bêtes de la mer, which is sea creatures, essentially. This was done by Matisse in 1950, which was 4 years before he died. If this was original from that era, it would be a very valuable piece. We can tell, again, some things you can tell online and some things you have to see in person, but I could tell by the type of paper used in this case that this is a poster print, and it would have been done around the 1980s. There was a big resurgence of interest in Matisse in the 1980s, along with modernism in general. And so this piece, which is in good condition and very graphic, even though it's the more recent poster print, should sell in the $75 to $100 range. So that's another fun thing. Now, I wanted to mention, it says here that I think it says, well, it might not be clear, but when we go to the form that you would fill out to send in for something like this, if your item is not worth more than $20, I'm just going to tell you that. I don't expect people to pay to find out they have a $5 item. That's not the point of this. So let's show a couple of images of some things that were under the $20 threshold that people sent me, but I can tell you a little about them and you'll get the feel for that. The first one here is an image with a clock in the middle, but it actually, the thing that the client was asking about was not the clock, but about the silhouettes on the wall, because she had a friend who was downsizing and wanted to know if they had value. Some silhouettes are very valuable, especially the French ones made of cut paper from the 19th century and prior. These are definitely that style, but it really came back in the 30s. People started collecting those original French silhouettes. Companies started making other forms of silhouettes, which we'll see a couple in our little live sale we're going to do in a little bit. And then people started redoing the ones in the paper, much like the French had done. So it ends up being several generations. And because hers are the later generation, the value of those little pieces is likely to be under 20 for all of them. And so that was my assessment of that. The next one shows some cups and saucers here. And the cups and saucers that you see are Limoges. And I believe that they are Haviland and Company is the main mark, but the other mark underneath it is another Haviland mark. Haviland was actually an American importer of china from the Limoges section of France. So Haviland is the name we know the best in the United States, but they're not by far the only name in Limoges porcelain. They are the most collected here, though. And this pattern looks, from the shape of the cups, to be about 1920s. They're very sweet. The values of Limoges are starting to go up again, but they're way down from what they were 30 years ago. So there was a time that these would have valued over $20 for a cup and saucer. Now they're more in the $12 to $14 range typically. Another piece, and this was sort of a go along, the client actually just sent this to me because she had wrapped something expensive in it and then said, oh, by the way, out of curiosity, what is this? And it is two flags. And it's a nice embroidered handkerchief. And it does have significance because it shows the US flag and the British flag. These sorts of things where you see the American and British flags together were done around 1939 and 40. It was to get Americans who were very reluctant about getting involved with the Second World War to support Britain in their fight against Germany, because obviously they were involved in the war earlier than we were. And so there's a whole bunch of people who collect this because it's a World War II related collectible. It's a patriotic thing. So the value of this is probably around $20, which is pretty good because a typical embroidered hanky might be somewhat less than that. So it's a cute piece that could use a good ironing, but it was being used to wrap something in a drawer for the last 75 years. So that's the way it is. And then the last one, I think one of the folks viewing tonight sent in, and this one is a calendar, and this calendar is Russian, and we know that it's 1972, but unless you speak Russian, and thankfully I have some friends who do, you might not know that what this is a schoolgirls calendar. It says calendar for schoolgirls, is all that at the bottom there, and it's got Lenin on it. And people in the West tend to collect things that have Lenin on it. People in Eastern Europe tend to burn and throw away things that have Lenin on it. So a little different reaction in the marketplace. But this particular calendar, because they made a lot of them, is probably in the $15 to $20 retail value. So again, fun things. It's always fun to look, and I'm always happy to tell people about stuff. But there's no reason to have a formal appraisal or a costly appraisal done unless there's value to the piece. And of course, the website page talks about that I am a certified appraiser, so we definitely want to avoid any conflicts of interest. I don't buy the things I look at. When we do these valuations, I should also emphasize that this is a verbal approximation of value. It's me, or I might, I can write you something, but it's me saying, based on my knowledge, based on the first glance at this, here is the direction and value that we're seeing. It is not the same as a real appraisal. A real appraisal has to be in writing. And I have not heard this said by anyone else online, but it's very important to know. A true certified appraisal that you can use for IRS tax purposes or estate probate has to it has to define what is the purpose and what value we're looking for. So let me explain what that means. Let me get a there's a vase I need to get. Just one moment. Okay, so this vase, and I picked it on purpose because someone in a recent chat was saying that they were confused about Roseville, what Roseville, old Roseville really looks like. And this is a floral piece from the 1930s. And it's very well marked on the bottom. It says Roseville, I think it's 12V-8. That's the stock number for this piece. It's the snowberry pattern. And Roseville snowberry was definitely a pattern that was very popular in its time. This is in green. It came in several other colors. Now, again, what's the value of this vase? Well, it depends on the circumstances. If I'm doing an appraisal for insurance purposes, this vase, if you had to replace it in a hurry, you might pay as much as $195 for this vase. That is not what it sells for on eBay. That is, I am desperate. There isn't one listed on eBay. I need to go to Replacements Limited and buy it right now because that's the, sorry, I'm getting a sign here. This way? Okay, I'm learning. So that is going to, that's going to be an insurance value on something like this. Now, for example, you might see it listed at that kind of a price on First Dibs. Now, First Dibs is not a place as an eBay reseller that we go for comps because their prices are very high. But if you're selling to designers and decorators and that clientele, then you are going to be in a position where you're going to have to pay up for it. Now, the next level below insurance value is going to be estate or probate value or IRS tax value, and that's called fair market value. And it's very clear. Fair market value has an IRS definition. They are very stuck on it, and that's what you must use. That value is where you have a willing buyer and a willing seller who both know the same things and all the facts are right there. A good example of that is, some of the live sales that people are seeing on YouTube where things are going a little higher. Well, it's partly because they are wanting to, support a particular YouTube channel. They know what they're buying, they get to see it, they get it described, and so that has extra value to people. So that might be a fair market value, for example. As opposed to eBay, where if you're just a random eBay seller and you just stick something on, well, that might be closer to a retail value. And it might be, I'm sorry, just one moment. Whoops, there we go. Okay, thank you. Much better. So then you've got a retail value, and that's going to be an orderly liquidation. Like, what would you sell it for if you had it in your shop and you don't want to hold on to it forever, but you do want to sell it and get a decent price? That might be $95 or $100 on that piece. But if you're at an estate sale, you're not going to pay more than $35 or $40. That is an orderly liquidation. They have 3 days to liquidate everything in the house. So this is why one item can have many different values depending on where you are in the market with it. Let's see. So I wanted to, oh yes, okay, thank you. I get lost if I don't make a note or two. So this is why an appraisal is an opinion of value. And that's why, for example, Dr. Lori and I could look at the same item and she might say 120 and I might say 95, and we both can be right because we have different markets, we're looking at different values for different reasons. And that's why it's so important to state what the purpose of the appraisal is so that you know which value you're after. There's differences in markets. The Roseville would do very well where there's craftsman bungalow homes, and it might do well in some modernist settings, and it might sell to an Art Deco collector, but if what you really like is Victoriana, that's not selling for anything. So that's a different number as well. And so that's the reason that there's different opinions, and opinions are formed by research and expertise and also training. Someone asked me a couple of, it was a live. I was on another channel doing a live, and someone asked me if I had ever worked with Dr. Laurie, and I said no. And I thought about it afterwards, and the reason that I haven't is because appraisers generally work alone unless we need somebody who's an expert in a particular field. Now, she has a PhD in fine art, and I do not. So if I were to work with her, it would be, for example, to hire her as a subcontractor to help me with fine art that she might understand that I don't. And there's areas of the market that I have more experience than she does, and she might use me if she were doing that type of appraisal. The truth is, a generalist appraiser most of the time does things on their own, and they just get in with a specialist in a certain area if they need expertise in that specialty. I have a friend in Seattle, for example, who I talk to when I have to deal with Asian art and artifacts because he's been dealing in it for 50 years, and I have a cursory knowledge at best. So that is, and again, my background, I started with, I was on Antiques Roadshow as a backstage guest and saw that they had a lot of junior appraisers at the level I am now, and they were backstage looking things up. It was like the man behind the curtain on The Wizard of Oz, where the item disappears behind the curtain and everyone says, where'd it go? And I followed it back there, and I watched them doing preliminary research, and I thought, okay, I can learn how to do that. And they recommended that I go to appraisal school, and I did. And that's when I became a certified appraiser. And it's been a great experience. I've gotten to work with Sotheby's and Christie's and some big auction houses, placing items because I was able to identify what they were and help the client get them to the right place. So it's a fun thing to do. It's another aspect of this whole antique and vintage thing that's really fun. One thing, without going too far into it, that's very important if you are ever having a written appraisal done, if you need it for, say, you're settling an estate and they require, for some reason, that you have an appraisal done, it must conform with uniform standards of professional appraisal practice, which is also something I haven't heard discussed online, and I won't go into all 9 points and the arcane details of it, but it basically means you're certifying that the appraisal is done at arm's length, that you don't have an interest in the parties involved, that the research is done to the proper standard, that the value stated is correct, etc. So that is absolutely necessary because the IRS, for example, if you're making a donation of an item or a group of items over $500, you cannot write it off your taxes anymore unless you have an appraisal done, and it has to be by somebody who is a professional appraiser. It can't just be, oh, I know what this is worth, I made a list. They won't accept that. So that's why these things, even though they're kind of arcane, do come into that sort of thing. So real quickly, I just wanted to ask, we're going to go on from here on to some other subjects. In fact, I think maybe we should go on and do some selling here because again, we keep the appraisal separate from the selling. But does anyone have any questions about anything so far, or any comments or anything that you'd like to know more about? And then we'll continue on to other things. Just looking to see. Real estate appraisal is similar. Yes, that is true. My grandfather was a real estate appraiser, and I was surprised how similar the requirements are. Let's see. Since the market is always changing, how often should insurance appraisals be done? That's a very good question. I would say it depends on the nature of your collection. If the market is changing because of fluctuation like precious metal prices, or if we suddenly have a burst of inflation and the prices all change, then that's a good time to have an appraisal updated. If you're having it done because it's just your general household stuff and some collections and the market seems like it's been stable, you might not be under as much pressure. So there's no hard and fast rule, but I typically have had clients come back about every 5 to 7 years to update because mainly because they collect more and they end up with more stuff and they need to make sure that it's listed. It also depends on your insurance, whether you have coverage for everything up to a certain amount, or some policies want anything over a certain age listed separately, and some want everything over a certain value listed separately. So those kind of dictate. How long does an appraisal price last? Okay, that's an interesting question. I think it just depends on the part of the market you're looking at. For example, if I appraise a coin collection, a lot of it is based on the metal value. So if metal values are pretty stable, then those prices may stay stable for a long time. The coin market really didn't budge for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, starting in about 2009, after the economic upheaval, a whole lot of people got interested in coins again. A whole lot of people started hoarding coins and silver, and the prices shot up. So the last several years, you could just about update that appraisal every couple of years on those categories because they kept changing so much. So again, I'm sorry there's not a hard and fast rule, but that's a generalization that maybe will help you. I think, let's see. Anybody else with anything? And if not, we're going to go on and do some different stuff and have some fun here. Let me see here. Okay. Since the market is always changing, how often should insurance appraisals be done? Kind of the same question again. I think it really depends on your collection. And if you're actively collecting, you'll have a sense if the market has changed a lot. If you haven't been actively collecting and you've got a lot of old collections sitting around, then you may need something for that reason. So again, probably every 5 to 7 years is kind of a typical thing for, I know a lot of big collectors update theirs about that often, or if they get something new to the collection. I think that we've gotten that. Let's see. I look for every opportunity to use it.
I'm going to put them on the screen.
Okay, that's great.
So just be patient.
Okay, very good. Well, then I think that we will go on to another segment here.
Nope, we've got questions.
Oh, we do. Okay, well let's do that. Is appraisal school expensive? Do you have continuing education requirements? It depends on the appraisal school you go to, and I have to admit I do recommend going to as good a one as you can afford. I went through International Society of Appraisers, and they were very well regarded and are very well regarded. And I feel I got a much better education. It was a certification course through the University of Maryland. It was very intensive. It was like being in finals in college for a several week period. And that was just to get your foot in the door, and then there's levels that you can train for above that. There are organizations that will certify you as an appraiser with a lot less education, and you can do as little as a 2-day course with some of them. And that may be fine if you have a lot of experience, but if you're new to it, I would recommend paying the extra money and doing the more rigorous education. As far as continuing education, some organizations require it and some don't. I always try to stay up to date on Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, which is USPAP or USPAP, because those are the things that we certify in the appraisals. So I try to upgrade that every year. And some of the organizations, ISA does a great job of having conventions where you can go and learn about specialized things, but the original appraisal school that you will take is not about identification. You have to have previous experience. You have to know a lot about your product before you go in, because they're teaching you about how to correctly do an appraisal under different circumstances. Their job is not really to teach you what you're appraising. You have to get that elsewhere. So that is that's the answer. I really think that if you're going to go to appraisal school, it does help if you have about 3 years experience in the field. It's a requirement in some places. Okay, Debbie from Chicago is asking, should I restore a 1937 Gibson guitar or leave it as is? That is going to depend on who is going to restore it. When you're getting back to 1930s Gibson guitars, some of them can be rather valuable. It's sort of the golden age of Gibson guitars, that in the early 50s with the electrics. And so whether to have it restored, honestly, to my mind, would depend on who is doing the restoration. If it's a very well qualified restorer who really knows what they're doing, can make sure that the color of the finish comes out right, that the neck is strong structurally where it needs to be, that everything is put back to the original, not just using whatever parts they have laying around, then I would say yes, if you're planning on keeping it and if it would please you to have it in perfect condition. If you're just keeping it for nostalgia's sake and you don't care, then you don't necessarily have to have it done. And if you're planning on selling it, it could be very expensive. You may want to sell it as is. Kevin Stanforth asks, do you appraise sports collectibles differently than you would vintage or antique items? Yes, actually, that gets into a good area of discussion, which is, what do you do about new or recent vintage collectibles? Now, it's easy for insurance purposes to give them a value because you just figure, oh, if they lost them today, they're going to have to pay top dollar to get another one. But if you're dealing with newer collectibles that don't really have an established secondary market, meaning they're not really old enough for anybody to really know what the vintage value is, then you get into some areas that can be kind of tricky. So sports collectibles can be different because a lot of the market right now is for newer things done by currently active players, like photo, you go to the stadium and they have these booths where they have a ball signed by the players, or they have a photo signed by a player, or a jersey and that sort of thing. Well, you're at the ballpark, you're at the pro shop, and they did a certain number so that there'd only be so many so that they can charge top dollar, and that's what you're going to pay. And they'll usually have a certificate of authenticity with them. In the long run, a certificate of authenticity is going to be better than not having one, because there are fakes and forgeries, and it's just easier if you don't have to guess. On the other hand, I got a bunch of old baseballs, and one of them is signed by Tommy Lasorda, and it's worth $150, and it's not new and doesn't have a COA or any of that. So that's where sports collectibles are a little different than other things in terms of your approach. I think when you're dealing with vintage sporting goods, when you get back 30 years or more, and even signatures and that sort of thing, it's not as much of an issue. When looking for a coin appraiser, what do I look for? Well, Delphina, I can tell you a couple of things. The things that bother me with coin appraisal are that people tend to overgrade their coins. Coins go by a grading system starting with the letter G, which is good. Actually, there's AG, which means about good, which is basically worn flat. And then there's good, there's very good, there's fine, there's very fine, there's extra fine, and then there's various levels of near to completely uncirculated. And those levels are, especially in the uncirculated coins, are very subtle differences. And if someone over appraises it by a grade, they could charge hundreds of dollars more than it's worth. So you really want to go to something. There we go. Yes. I for Eclectus says coin appraiser preferred value PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, and those are all grading services. Just like sports collectors, you can have a coin grading service if you have a high dollar coin, or something in really great condition, you can send it in. They will send it back in a slab, and that is a plastic seal where the coin is mounted, and it has the information about the coin and the grading they gave to it listed. And as long as you never break open that slab, not only will your coin not tarnish, but it also will be considered to be the grading level that they have assessed. Short of that, it really pays to go to a reputable coin dealer. And I would ask for referrals in your area. Another thing about coins, it's different. You know, those of us who go to thrift stores and find cool old vintage things would love to find them for 10 cents on the dollar. If you're buying wholesale, you might be paying 30 or 40 or 50 cents on the dollar for nicer antiques and vintage. When you are buying and selling coins generally, most of the expensive ones have precious metals in them, and so they have an intrinsic value right away. And because of that, a coin dealer usually should be paying about 80% or more of the actual value of the coin. And so if you're being offered, the thing to do is, at least if you're taking a collection in, look at a few, find out what the values seem to be, and then you'll have a sense if they're offering you a fair price or not. That's one way to ensure that you're being treated fairly. Coin shops generally are pretty fair about buying things because they're in a stationary spot, and it's easy for people to come back if they do something wrong. And so that's a great way to make sure that you're going to be in good shape, is go to some place that's been in business for a long time. So those are some clues about coin appraising. I'll say real quickly that when I see a bunch of coins in a bag that somebody took out of circulation in the 60s, 97% of them are low value. A couple percentage of them are medium value, and there might be a handful that are valuable, because that's just how it works. It's all about scarcity, and most coins are not scarce except for the ones that are.
One more question from up north, and then we're moving on to the next segment.
Okay. I've paid to have composition dolls from the 1930s professionally restored, including clothing. Does this factor into the value? The answer is yes. If you have had professional restoration done, the first thing I would encourage is keep whatever documents, receipts, list of work order, whatever you had done, keep that with the piece, or at least where you can get it, because it will be important to someone who is potentially going to buy the item, or if you're insuring or appraising the item, to know that it's been restored and the type of restoration that's been done. Professional restoration is almost always better than an amateur one. And once you've put the money in for restoration, you don't always get all of that money out in terms of value, but it definitely increases the value over something that's as is by quite a lot. So restoration is a good thing if it's done correctly. And okay, well, those were some great questions. Thank you. I'm glad that this is interesting enough that it's stimulating some thought. And but I wanted to go on and do something else for fun. We're going to come back to the website and talk a little bit about that more at the end, because there's some other things I'd like to show you about that. But right now, I wanted to talk just a little bit about why am I doing a live channel. And basically, it just makes sense to have it all in one place. The idea is that, you know, there's certain events where I'm at a show, and it'd be great to show you something as it's happening, and I can't do that right now. I have a storehouse, and I have good reception there, and I can be showing you things for impromptu live sales. I'm not likely to start having... who knows what the future may bring, but I'm not initially planning on having a set schedule for sales and that sort of thing, because the rest of my schedule is so busy. I basically want to have an opportunity where, hey, if I'm there and I can come to you live for a little bit, we can have some fun. So it will probably be a pretty spontaneous thing at first. If I'm in the middle of a haul or just some interesting situation, or the other day I was at the Henry Ford Museum, it would have been fun to go live and show you some of that. So I'm excited about this, and I think that it will be cool. But tonight, what I wanted to do, pursuant to the live sale notion, is I wanted to experiment a little with some different notions of how to do a sale. So we're going to do a couple of little sales here, and I would love to have your comments and see what you think about all this. The first one I'm going to do, and again, I'm looking forward to when I get to 1,000 subscribers and the number of watch hours on this new channel that I need to be able to do it. I will then be able to go live and use the phone and show you things in person, and that's going to make spontaneity a lot easier. But I wanted to do an experiment and try a couple of different notions of sales and see what you think, and well, we'll just go from there. So I'm going to hold up the first flight of items, and what I'm doing here Okay, very good. Well, a couple of points there. It turns out that we just need 1,000 subscribers. That's all. So that's great. We're getting close to that already. I am going to show you some things. I'll show you in groups of 5. Hang on. This is one of these things where, again, it's going to be easier eventually when I'm able to do this. Okay, I think I have all this in the center. So here are 5 of them, and I've got 5 more. These are Baldwin Brass and one other brass company. These are ornaments that they came out with every year, and I think they're really cute. And the notion of this sale, I'm going to show you the other 5, is this one's going to be a dealer's choice. And what that means is that sometimes I get a whole lot of one thing at once, and if I get it at a reasonable price and I can sell it that way, then what I can do is make it easy on you and on me by offering everything for the same price. But here's the catch. I'm going to try to get the rest up here where you can see. There's a nice angel, there's the wise men, another creche or 2, and I've got one more here. So for this first live sale, you're not going to have to do anything except if you are interested in any of these. There are 10 of them. The first 10 people may have one at a total of $5 plus shipping. And so but it's dealer's choice, meaning that I will choose which one you get. So that's the game. It's kind of like a mystery box. You're going to get one of these, but you're not necessarily going to know which. So if you are interested in any of these, please put the number 1 in the chat, and the first 10 people can have one of these for $5 plus shipping.
Does that one have some iridescence to it?
This one does, yeah. It's got a little bit of a sparkle behind. Baldwin Brass is known for a lot of holiday time kind of things. And so there's a bird, there's a creche. We've got a little church here. And I think these sell for about $15 online. So hopefully this will be a nice deal for someone. If anyone is interested in these, let me know. And if not, we'll continue on to other sales. I remember those. Yes, I do too. I think I had a friend who had a lot of these on their tree.
Kelly is putting her ducks to bed.
Ah, very good. That's fun. Okay, so, all right. Well, maybe Christmas in July isn't the time. So we will go on from there, and we're going to try a different style of an auction instead. I would love iridescent one. Okay, well, the iridescent one is yours then, and that is for Delphina. So Delphina, if you'll just send your information to me at the Antique Nomad at gmail.com. And just to let all of you folks know that if you are ordering anything tonight or anytime from me, or you just want to reach me, please email. The Antique Nomad at Gmail is a great place to reach me. A lot of folks try to reach me through messaging on various social media. There's just so much social media that it's really hard to keep up with. So for commerce, the Antique Nomad at gmail.com is the place to send your information, and then I can make sure things get out to you that way. So let's see. Love the cha-ching. Yes, I like the cha-ching too. That was cute. So, well, very good. Delphina's going to get an ornament, and we're going to move on to another sale concept that I'm curious about to see whether this might be something. And again, these will be easier once we hit our 1,000 subscribers, because you'll be able to see everything at once. That's one of the drawbacks to doing this the way we are now, is because we can't do it remotely, so it's limited to what I can put on this little table in front of me and hold up to show you. We're going to try this next one. We're going to try doing a country auction style. I'm going to hold up 7 figurines. They are Lennox and Gorham, and they are ladies. They are going to start out at $15 each, and we're just going to run the clock for 1 minute. And if you are interested in any or all you have to do is put in your name, and and whoever is the high bidder at the end of 1 minute will have their choice of any or all of them. And then we can go another round. And if it went for more than you wanted, you might have a second chance. So let me show you what these gals look like. These are all about 35 years old, and they are porcelain bisque and hand painted. They're very nicely done. They're one of the first things that Lennox started doing in various places around the world. I'm going to just do 2 at a time here because they're a little awkward. This one is Royal Reception. She looks like she's ready for royalty. This one is At the Fair. This is a Gorham piece. They started doing these about the same time in the mid-1980s. This one is Stardust. This one has an umbrella. There are 2 with umbrellas. These are both Gorham as well. This one is the Sunday Promenade. They all have the names on the bottom. These were very popular at the time because a lot of people who remembered their grandmothers had been Gibson girls started collecting these. Well, now that generation is turning them over to a new generation. This one's called On the Boardwalk by Gorham. This one is the Belle of the Ball, which is a Lennox figure. And the last one is Arabella. And this one was from the Georgette Heyer collection. She was a very famous author. So do we have a way to run a clock or check a thing? Okay, well, we'll just have to approximately estimate. So if any of you folks are interested in these, they're starting at $15, and you can put 15 in the comments now, and we'll let this run for 1 minute, and whoever has the highest bid at the end will have first choice of any of all of them. And if there's other people interested, then we'll go another round. And I'll just keep holding them up so that you can see them in case there's a particular one you liked or didn't get a good look at. All of the pretty all of the jewelry channels do their auctions in this style. Oh, that's interesting to know. I suppose it makes sense because when you're having my thought about this is when you have a lot of the same item, that it's nice to let people have the opportunity. Someone should just put SB 15 for starting bid. Okay, that's actually a good idea. So if anyone is interested in any of these, you can go ahead and put in 15, and that will be the starting bid. We may have a less fancy crowd with us tonight, but we'll take a look. They are nicely done, I have to say. I've been enjoying having these. I'm helping close out an estate, and that's where these are from. And she's got her little booklet. That would be her dance card that she's holding up there. And here she is with her fan. Okay, well, we're going to give this just a minute longer and see if there's any interest in any of these, and then we will continue on from there. There she is with her umbrella. I'm sure a lot of these umbrellas have fallen over and been lost and are missing over the years. Oh, well, that's very kind. You enjoy this. I'm glad somebody likes me better than Antiques Roadshow, but I have to say I give them a lot of credit because I don't know that I would have become an appraiser without their encouragement. So, okay, well, it does not seem like the lovely ladies are going to new homes. So, I love the sound effects. This is fun.
Does that mean they're getting the hammer?
Well, no, we're not smashing anything.
The Gong Show.
Zeta would like to have a smash or trash sale, but we'll figure that out. Okay, so, well, let's try a standard sale then. We will do it the old-fashioned offering way, and I will just bring up. Again, when I am able to do this live, I'll be able to do shop my shelves. In this case, what I have is, and you're not going to be able to see it because it's heavy and I have to leave it next to me, but I have, because I'm not in my storehouse, I have shelves behind me with a whole bunch of stuff on it that I think you might find interesting. And so we will just start one at a time. All right, our first item here is a Wedgwood piece, and Wedgwood made a lot of nice quality dinnerware over the years. This particular pattern is called Potpourri, and it is very cute with the little blue flowers and the pink. Wedgwood dinnerware is just as good quality as a lot of other companies made, but people really know their Jasperware, and a lot of people don't know these other lines. These little friendship cup and saucers have been popular to give as gifts for a long time. This one should date back about 40 years, and it is going to be $5, and it is number 4. So if anyone is interested in this, they can put in the number 4 and it will be theirs. All right, well, we'll try for something a little more riveting for this crowd. Let's see what else we have here. The idea when we're in a position to do this in a remote location will be that you'll get to pick what we put up here because you'll be able to see it all. Tonight, it's going to have to be one at a time. This piece here is left in China, and this is pin money. This would have been something, well, we all know what pin money is for it, so that you can go out and buy your next collectible. So this bank will help you save it. It has got the old Lefton mark with the crown on the bottom that you may be able to see there. And it's got applied flowers. It's cute piece, 1950s. And we're going to also do this at $5, and this is number 16. So if you're interested in this, it's $16. It's $5 for number 16. These prices do not include shipping, by the way. Okay, well, Auntie Christie will take that one. And so we will put her down for the Lefton Bank. And if you'll just send me your information to the Antique Nomad at Gmail, we'll get that out for you. Let's see what else we have. Oh, here's something. This Dutch shoe with the flower on it may be familiar to some of you folks because McCoy is the name of the potter. And it is marked very clearly McCoy on the bottom. There seems to be a lot more interest in McCoy these days. It's actually become more popular than a lot of the formerly big names in pottery. I would say I get more requests for McCoy than I do for Roseville these days, for example, although I did sell a lot of Roseville this weekend at the show. It is a typical McCoy piece in that it has a couple of glaze skips because McCoy was not big on quality in their earlier days. They were big on quantity and making it fast, and that actually has given it a rustic look that is very appealing to people, it seems. This particular piece, I would like to do this one as an offer up. So we'll give you a price, and whoever would like it can put their name in with the price they'd like to pay, and the highest price will win. This will start at $9 for the McCoy boot, Dutch shoe with the flower. So if you're interested in this, you may bid $9 or higher, and it will be available to you starting now. And it's got not a whole lot of wear on the bottom, even though these were made in the 40s or 50s. The reason being that a lot of these were made as wall pockets. They would actually have had a hole and sat there, or they just were made to sit on a counter with a succulent or a plant or nursery pins or hat pins or whatever you needed in there. So that is why it does not have a lot of wear compared to their cookie jars and some of those other things that are hard to find in good condition. And I see that Susan Weehee is interested in this, and that's great. And I have a feeling that it may be hers, but I'm going to give everyone a few more minutes, or a little bit of time here. So Way, I'm sorry, Susan. I know that's Way. You've told me that before. I have to admit that I'm a little tired. So $9 is the top bid plus shipping, and this is on its way to Susan unless someone bids in about the next 15 seconds. And that is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And very good. Well, that is yours, Susan. Thank you very much. If you'll just send your information to the Antique Nomad at gmail.com, that will be coming to you. And let's pick out a couple more items, and then we're going to do just a few more that are out of my show stock, because I figured I'd want to show you folks some nice things. I thought this would be nice to show because it is something that does not have a mark on the bottom. It was likely made in Austria before 1895. And it is a chamber stick. Everybody had to have a chamber stick in the Victorian period because you had to be able to walk around at night with some sort of light if you had, well, a midnight run to the icebox or to the outhouse. So these were handy, and these were in a lot of houses. This one is fancier than most. It has a nice rose transfer pattern. I thought it was a very pretty piece. And it's got really good age and is in good condition, which is also important. The use of the white porcelain is a nod to the fact that people by the late Victorian era were getting very tired of everything being dark and somber. And so that's when this all changed. I like when they have the little handles on those. I agree, Nesting Haven. I really do too. There's just something about the style that I think really adds something to it. And that's what makes it a chamber stick rather than a candle. You kept this in the bed chamber and walked around with it. I am going to do this as an offer as well. And, you know, we're going to start this also at $9. If anyone is interested in it, it can be yours. And you may go ahead and put a bid in right now if you are interested, starting at $9. And if someone bids 9 and someone wants it more, well, then you have the choice. Let me turn it this way so that you can see the pattern a little bit better. And here is the bottom. Again, it's not that you'll see some dirt on the high points, which makes sense because these were used. This didn't just sit on a shelf for years and years. People took these around at night. So we're going to give it one more moment here. And that's very cottagecore. Yes, it really is. A lot of people are doing cottagecore kind of decorating where they make a very homey, snug place, kind of based on the way people used to live, which I think that's appealing. I can understand why people like that. Okay, well, I'm going to give this about 15 more seconds and then we're going to move on to something else. So if anyone out there is interested, oh, it looks like we do have Charlene and Susan Way, who I'm going to pronounce correctly, hopefully forever after, is bid 12. So I'm going to give it another 15 seconds. Oh, we're up to $14 now. Well, I'll just have to count. So we're going to do 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, it looks like Susan Way got the last high bid. So you already know to send your information to me, and I will put that with the other item, and we will combine shipping to make it easier on everybody. And let me just make a note of that. All right, I'm going to do a couple more of these, and then I'm going to bring out about 5 items of my show stock because it's an opportunity to share that with you folks who can't get to see me at a show. So let me do 1 or 2 more here. Bear with me. Okay, thank you. Tight quarters here. It'll be fun when we can do this in a free space. The first thing, this is going to be something for maybe the modernists while we're on the candle holder situation here. This is by Orifors, and it's a cracked ice pattern. Orifors is very good quality Swedish glass, and it's got the signature right here. And it's just got a real clarity to it. They did do colors as well, but this particular one is in clear.
Ooh, that sort of looks like a flying saucer.
I have to give Zito credit for the sound effects. These are lots of fun. I have not heard them before, so this is entertainment for me too. So the Orifors piece, this should date to about 1980. Orifors is now part of Costa Boda and I believe is no longer made under its own name. So this is something that is only available in the secondary market now. And we are going to start this piece. We'll do it as an offer again. If anyone is interested, the opening bid, which you can start now, is only $5. We're going to start at $5 and go from there. It is a heavy piece, but it should fit in a small box, so it shouldn't be terribly expensive to send. And I am shipping from Kentucky, so that will make it a little easier.
Does it separate?
The only thing that separates is the votive candle comes out of the top. But otherwise, it is one heavy piece of glass all by itself. I would say this probably weighs about 2 pounds. Whoops.
Yeah. We have a $5 bid.
Oh, very good. And we've got 2 $5 bids, so someone will have to step a little higher if they want this piece. I think that the retail on this is probably around 20, so
$6.
Okay, very good. Nice to see. I just like the idea of being able to send some things to you folks that I can't meet all of
$8.
you in person, and you're not all where you can come to see me at a show. So I'm hoping that this will be a way to share the wealth a little bit more with all of you.
$10.
Oh, that's Brie. Okay, very good. It is a nice piece. You'll notice the patterning is all on the bottom, and the top is very smooth. And that way, when you look through the top, you're looking into the patterning, and that's what gives it sort of a three-dimensional effect. I see.
$12.
Oh, very good. So I know that a lot of people who do sales want to leave things up and leave things up, but I have to be honest, I have other things I want to show you too. So I'm going to give this about another 20 or 30 seconds, and then we'll do the countdown. Glass even. Yes. Yeah, it is a very nice piece. And so, okay, well, let's count down then. We're going to do 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And oh, at the last minute, Delphina comes in with a $15 bid. So thank you. That will go to you. And I will find some way. I will combine shipping, but I'll make sure there's really strong boxes so your ornament doesn't get crushed. Ornament. Okay. Well, the stuff you're buying is telling me that you folks are a little more sophisticated, which is nice. I'm going to bring a few more things up here. We're starting to get into things that have been in my show stock, or were going to be in my show stock. The next one here is a little Olympus camera. I know that a lot of people who buy cameras are serious people who want to shoot film, but there's a lot of people who just like the idea of an old camera on their desk. So here we go. Hopefully that's in better focus for you. It's a 35 millimeter. The important thing with a camera, if you're going to buy it, is to make sure everything works. I always press the shutter button, move the film advance. You want to take a look and make sure that the lens doesn't have any scratches, which it doesn't. Lenses can make a big difference in value, and it's not always just a giant zoom lens. Sometimes the little lenses are valuable too. So that's a tip for you out there. If you're looking at a bunch of cameras, look at the lens. That has a lot to do with whether it's an expensive camera or not. The film advance seems to work. And is this the way that you open it? Another thing about cameras is trying to figure out how everything goes. So it looks like everything works on this one. So this little Olympus is going to date to sometime in the early 70s, and we're going to start it out at a bid of just $10 and see if anyone out there is interested. So if you are interested, go ahead and put in your name and a number. I do have lots of cameras still. I've been selling a huge collection for about the last year, and I've got some old diaphragm cameras. I've got one twin lens reflex left. I've got some, I think I've sold all the plate cameras. The really early stuff is gone, but a lot of things from the 30s through the 50s are actually where people seem to be collecting. And I'm finding in the antique stores that I am selling these in the $35 to $50 range really consistently every month. So if you're a reseller out there, this might actually be a deal for you. But if this is not anyone's cup of tea, then we will move on to something else. Looks minty. Yes, I think it is pretty minty.
The background.
This was a big...
Just talking about the background.
Oh, yeah. Well, the background is minty too. I like the background. I have to give Zeno a lot of credit. He comes up with all these great ideas. Okay, well, we're going to put this one aside. The Joy Buzzer music. Okay, just 1 second, and I'll be back with... I think we'll do about 5 more things, and these will all be out of show stock, and then we'll go on to our final segment. So give me just a second to get organized here. Ah, yes. Looking forward to getting the 1,000 subscribers and being able to do this on the phone, so there's not so much running back and forth. Uh, but there are a few things that were intended to go with me for shows that haven't been there yet, and I'm going to show you a few of them now because you have a chance to get them ahead if there are things that interest you, plus we can talk about them for a little and why they interest me. This set here is from the 1930s, and what you have is a mustard pot with the original spoon. Very important that they have the original spoon. That's often missing in these sets because the spoons had the lusterware painted on them as well. So if you don't have the original spoon, you may not be able to find the right color to match. It's got the shakers and a cute floral pattern. But what to me is interesting about this set, we'll have to take these off so that you can see, is that it was made by Noritake, and you can see it has the red mark on the bottom and it says made in Japan. These would have said Nippon up until about 1930, and then we decided that no, we needed them to say Japan because that's how we said Japan and we didn't want to see Nippon, so they obligingly changed their logo to match. The red mark means it was from the better of the two Noritake factories. And that is significant in that the green mark, they made very nice stuff, but the red mark at the time was considered the better of the two factories that had the better painters and the better decorators. So this came from the better factory. And I'm going to start the bid on this at $12. If this interests anybody out there, you can put in $12 or up. I think they're a neat set. They typically sell for about $25 to $30 out in the market. So we will see if anybody finds this appealing like I do. The handle is interesting because it has been used over the years, and it is a greenish color. And that is normal. That is the way it was made, even though it is a little different. But I suspect what it is that it's actually reacted a little bit to people's fingers over that amount of time.
$15.
Oh, very good. 17. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you folks are enjoying this too. I think it's a very pretty set. These always sell every time I get them. People really seem to like the three pieces together like this.
For eclectic, we will. This is the best we can do right now with the setup, but we will work on that for next time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to improve and learn as we go with this. That is part of the reason for this experiment tonight. So thanks for helping us out with it.
$17.
Oh, that's great. And well, Susan, I definitely promise I won't say your name wrong again. I am going to give this
$20.
Ah, Bree. Well, very good. It is a very nice piece. That's better. Oh, well, I'm glad. I'll try to hold it up as close as I can.
George likes to fly things around like an airplane.
Yes. Yes, I still am. Well, again,
$22.
Thank you for all of your patience and also for helping us with this experiment tonight because this is a new channel and a new experience for me, and I'm sure I will get better with time. But it is fun to do this, and I think I'm going to give this about another 15 seconds. So if anyone else is interested, this is your chance because we are now at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it looks like it belongs to Susan Way. And thank you very much for that. I will add that to the list. And that'll just take one moment. Thank you. Okay, the next thing here is kind of a sweetie. This is a paperweight, which on its side does not look like much. But when you tip it up, it has a very sweet little Kewpie right in the middle. The Kewpie is hopefully visible. I'm going to keep turning this so that hopefully you'll get to see everything. It also has pressed flowers in there. These were very popular around 1950. Now, Kewpies came out in 1911. Rosie O'Neill was the originator, and she made very, very sweet ones, and lots of other people copied her. American companies, European companies, Japanese companies. By 1950, the Kewpies were starting to appeal to a new generation, and there were new lines coming out from Japan. And some American companies decided that they should do something to get on the bandwagon too, and that's where this paperweight came from. This is American. This one has a rake in their hand and the pressed flowers, which were a very typical decorating theme around 1950. I just got this, and I would like to offer it at a starting price of $12. So if someone's interested, you can start it off at 12 and we will see where it goes. The way these were made, unlike the art glass paperweights where they actually did glass and they had to warm and fuse it all, these were done with a backing so that you could actually lay everything on the backing and then sandwich it under the glass. And so you'll see sometimes these with nothing in them, and people will put family photos or other things in them and use the old ones again in that manner.
$12 bid.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I just think she's very sweet, and I think that she is a good example of the type of thing being done around that time. It's about 3 inches around, and it's not terribly heavy, not as heavy as the Auraforce piece, probably in the 1 pound range.
I for Eclectic is asking, did they typically sell the lenses and people make their own?
I've seen both. You could get the blanks and make your own. There were sort of oblong biscuit-shaped ones before this that you could do that with as well. And then they also were done commercially. So I've seen both. And this one, again, didn't get a ton of use. The felt's in good condition, which is nice. And let's see. So we're at
$12.
$12. Okay. And we are going to count down from 12 then. So 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Very good. Well, Lynn, thank you. I'm glad you liked that. And I know I have a few other things for you, so we will figure out how to best get them to you. Maybe in person, since I think I'm going to see you at the appraisal fair in Centralia, Washington at the 1st of next month. Let me make a note of this. All right. Just a couple more things, and then we'll move on to some other stuff, but it's fun to do a little sale with you. I don't really do this very often, and we'll have a chance to do this a little bit more now. I think it would be nice to bring out something that's a little bit cross-collectible. This also just came to me. I had a big selection of these last year, and they pretty much all sold. This is the first one I've had since then. And this is a Ronson cigarette lighter. In the mid-1930s, Ronson came up with the idea of adding a spring-loaded cigarette case to the bottom of their lighter so you could put the whole thing in a pocket. And this became the must-have gift of 1935. So much so that they had some of these that were as much as $20 back then. $20 in 1935 is maybe the equivalent of $120 now. And so these were definitely considered a big deal. They were made to be monogrammed. This one has been. It's got initials in the shield there. And on the back, it's got a little presentation piece. The important thing with lighters is, do they work? And this one does click. It doesn't have any fluid in it, but it's got the flint and it's all ready to go. And it does not have pitting. It also has...
Looks like initials.
It has initials. Yes, that's right. It's monogrammed. Monogram is HLE. It has the bottom of its original box, but it also has the original felt that it came in. And so it would have originally come as a gift with this piece disappearing into here, and then this would be the presentation box, and it would come all together as such. So I am going to start this one off at $15. If anyone is interested, please go ahead and bid now. $15 is the opening bid. What people are using these for nowadays, honestly, are little billfolds, because you can put your money under here, and a lot of people are not smoking short little cigarettes these days, so that's a good alternative use. Sometimes they're big enough to put business cards in. I don't think this one is unless you have sort of squarish business cards.
$15 bid.
Oh, that's great. I also will point out it's got the original screw on the back where you could unscrew and take this lighter out if you needed to service it, if you needed to put new felt in it. It does not need anything like that now, however. So I think that is a fun piece. I know that Misty at Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter bought some of these when she was here last year when I had them at my storehouse. So I have always liked them and I always look for them. And it looks like we have one bidder who likes this the most of all. So unless anyone else out there is interested, I'm going to count this down. We will go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and very good. Well, Auntie Christy, that is for you. And thank you very much. And again, please do send your information to me, the Antique Nomad at Gmail, and that way I'll make sure and get this out. I will be sending a bunch of eBay that closed tomorrow morning, and I will be working on these sorts of things. As soon as you folks are able to send payment, we will get them sent out to you right away. And let's see, what would a fun penultimate be here? Actually, I think we'll do this next. I mentioned silhouettes, and that silhouettes originated in France. By the 1930s, they were a big deal in the United States, and they mainly looked like this. They were reverse painted on glass rather than cut from paper, and the paper scenes in the back were printed. So you basically have a print, and then the glass has the black parts of the image that add to the print. It was a nice way to give three-dimensionality to this sort of art form, and people really liked them. Now, this one was not made for advertising, so it doesn't have anything on the back recommending a store or the place that it came from. It was made to be hung and enjoyed as it is. It does have its original hanging hook, which is the nice thing. And this one's a medium size. There is one size bigger than these. This one's about 7.5 inches by 6. So it's got some nice design to it. And we're going to start this also at $15. So if you're interested in this, you may go ahead and place a bid, and we'll let this run for just a little bit in case we have any silhouette collectors out there. I have noticed that the pink shades seem to be coming into style again. So we will definitely have to see if this doesn't sell here, then we'll have to display it in some way that shows how people are using these colors in their houses now. I always like the quarters. They have an airbrush quality to them. And I just think they're rather sweet, personally. And I do find that these are good sellers. Although it may not be for you folks tonight, but if not, well, then we'll take it elsewhere. So I'm going to give this just a little bit more time. And okay, well, we're going to let that one go then. And we'll try one last item. Okay, so there's one last piece that I'm going to show you, and then we're going to go on to some other stuff. But I thought that this was just kind of cool in a rather wild place. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut some people off? I just saw, sorry, left just came back. How much starting bid? Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. Since two of you are asking, I'm going to put it up one more time real quickly. The starting bid on this is $15, and I see Sandra Kay has made a bid now. So I'll tell you what, we're going to just let this go just a little bit longer.
$15 bid.
We have a $15 bid. If anyone else is interested, please go ahead and bid, because I want to give you a chance. I don't want to cut things off too fast. There's so much I want to talk to you about tonight that I get excited. So here's that. Okay, we are at 18. Not looking, just wondering what okay, very good. And I just want to make sure, Marina, that you are bidding on the silhouette, and that I didn't fake anybody out with putting the next item up there. So if this is what you're intending, you are at 18 and you are the high bidder. And now we will give it about 15 more seconds now that we have everybody able to take a look. So we are at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, very good. Well, Marina, it must have been meant to be. Okay, I will make a note, Marina Silhouette. If you'll just send your information to me at the Antique Nomad at Gmail, we will get that out to you. Okay, yay me, yes. All right, so this will be our last live sale item for the evening. It is a duck, but it's got a really crazy pattern on it, and it is by Dansk. It is part of the Arabesque line. Now, I had the mistaken impression that Dansk was a Danish company. It is not. A lot of the stuff was made in Denmark initially and in France, but Dansk actually is sourced from all over the world, and the way it got started was a couple from New York in the 1950s were looking for interesting modernist things to sell, and they went to a place in Denmark, a museum of arts and crafts, and they saw a set of silver that was handmade by a fellow, I think his name was Jens Kvistgaard, if I remember right. In any event, they really liked his work. He wasn't convinced it could be made commercially as a production product because he'd done it all by hand, but they helped him figure out how to make it a production ready thing, and that was the beginning of Dansk.
What's the starting bid?
The starting bid on this is going to be $12. And so if you would like to bid, you may go ahead and start now. And anyhow, Dansk has just made great quality stuff for years, and I really like their designs. They do tend towards a simple and modernist sort of design, or something that is folksy and also has a modern flair, which I would say this does. Arabesque came in a line where they had these as figurals, they had them as dishes, they also did some fish, and they did an entire line of dinnerware in this pattern. And I see that we've got somebody who's starting at $12. So
no, she's just saying
she's
that
just
it's
saying
$12.
start $12. Okay, I got it. Okay, so if anyone is interested in the duck, it is starting at $12, and it's a porcelain. It's close to bisque, but it's fired a little higher than that, so it's a little better quality than a simple bisque porcelain. And I see a couple folks are interested and they're bidding on this now. So there used to be Dansk factory outlets.
$15 bid.
Back in the 1990s in this country and in the late 80s. And I suspect that that's how this came to be. I don't believe that they operate any of those anymore, however. Manufacturing has changed so much that there are not as many.
$16.
Oh, very good. Well, hi, Suzanne. Thank you for that. There are not as many quality issues anymore, and so factory outlet stores used to be a place to sell seconds and overruns, and there just aren't that many of those these days. But it is I think especially if you look at the detail in the eye, when I look for hand painting, I always look at faces, eyes, those sorts of things, because that really tells you whether the quality is good or just sort of slapdash. And I feel like Dansk was always
Look
very
into
careful
my
about
eye.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Look into her lovely blue eye.
A duck that will not float, I'm guessing.
It would float if you put a stopper on it. It has this big vent hole because when they make
That's where the eggs come out.
Well, yes, that's true. I suppose if there were little Dansk duck eggs, they would come out of there. However, in this case, this duck is not going to lay an egg for you.
$20.
This duck has the hole here because when they make this kind of porcelain, of course, they have to cook it at between 15 and 1800 degrees. And if they didn't have a vent hole, the whole thing would just crack as it cooled down. So that's why you see holes in the bottoms of things that you wouldn't think would have holes. It's not a bank or anything like that. But it does have a very nice look to it. And I see that
$20 high bid.
Kelly Wood is our high bidder at 20, and so I'm going to start the countdown. We are at 20, 19. Oh well, let's do that a little faster. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Oh, another bid came in. Suzanne Crabtree at 23, and we've got 3, 2, 1. Last chance, and Suzanne Crabtree is going to be the new owner of this at $23, and thank you very much. Could be someone's nest egg. Yes, I saw someone saying that they look for money stuck in the bottoms of these, and that is true. We have found money in some pretty crazy places when we've done estate sales in the past. We've found it behind pictures. We found $6,000 behind a picture that was screwed to the wall. We wondered why it was screwed to the wall. It was just a little family photo. And we thought, well, it's not appropriate to leave a family photo up. And we took it down, and $6,000 and $100 bills fell out of it.
Is the camera still available?
The camera is still available. I'll hold it up again. And
I think 5-1 Hall tried to get it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll hold the camera up again. And I was starting the camera at 15. So if you are interested in it at 15, you may place your bid. And if anyone else is interested, then they are welcome to jump in as well. But let me know if that's of interest to you. If there's anything that you saw this evening that didn't get a bid that you're interested in having us put up again for you to see one last time, please let us know, because we're going to move on after that. Okay, Kevin is interested in the camera at 15. How much was it dropped out again?
The current bid is $15.
That's right. Thank you, Auntie Christy. Appreciate that. That is helpful. And here's what it looks like on the top. Olympus were made in Japan. It says so right on the bottom. And you can see that the condition really is good on this piece. So it should be something that you can use if you do art photography or something else using film. Okay, we're at 18 on the camera. And it is an Olympus 35 RC. Model numbers can be important. Kevin has a $20 bid in on this. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I should show you about it, but it's nice and clean. This came from a very large collection in Florida, and they had to move to a smaller house, and the collection filled the entire garage, and so they decided to let some of it go. And that's where this came from. So it really has not been used a lot. It's been carefully kept in a nice spot. And I see a $25 bid, and someone said I should take off the lens cap, which is a great idea. This is a 42 millimeter lens, and it's an Zuiko, and it says so on the lens. That can be important. Lenses do make a difference in terms of cameras and their value, especially larger millimeter formats seem to escalate values.
$30 bid.
Okay, very good. So we're at $30 on the Olympus, and all of the dials and everything seem to work just fine. I just want to make sure that you see that everything turns the way it should and behaves appropriately, because I know when you're selling something mechanical, it's not fair to do buyer beware when you are not here to be able to handle it and see that. So I am not a believer in buyer beware. I believe that people should be given fair information and make an informed decision.
$35 bid. 5-1.
Hi, KCATX. I see you out there, and Kevin is at 40. So it is a nice camera, and those are not unrealistic value areas. Like I said, I've been selling a lot of cameras, and average prices between $40 and $65 for these types of single lens reflex. The Japanese really took over the camera market around this time because they made such good material. And of course, there's the legend of the Japanese tourist with a camera. So
how many cameras do you think you have left?
Oh, I would say I have approximately
5,000.
It feels like it, but no, I think I'm down to about 150. I believe there were over 1,000 when I started selling the collection. So, but yes, I do have cameras, that's for sure. And
Current
okay.
current high bid is $40, Kevin.
Okay, well, we're going to just let it count down now then from 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And
Oh, 5-1. Got it the last second.
boy.
45.
Okay, well, shoot. I'm glad for 5 Wand Hall, and I'm sorry, Kevin, but I'll tell you what, I am, like I say, unless it rains, I'm going to do the Burlington show, and I will bring cameras there, so you'll have a chance to maybe get something else that you'll like. And in the meantime, 5 Wand Hall, if you will please send your information to me at the Antique Nomad at Gmail, we will get that ready and shipped out to you from Kentucky. So I appreciate you all indulging me. I know a couple of those sale formats were a little strange, and I'm realizing they'll make a little more sense when we can really do this remotely. So we'll try again on some of those, because I think that I would just like to see some experimentation with live sales and find some different ways to do some things where a lot of people can get a bargain all at the same time and make it easier on everybody. So we'll keep working on that. But thank you for letting us do this little test. It definitely is going to be helpful. I guess I wanted to talk a little bit more about the. Oh, thank you, Fatbirds. I appreciate that. I'm enjoying I'm enjoying coming to you live. I just haven't gotten to do this a lot, so I think this new channel is going to be a lot of fun.
We are coming up on 2 hours, and I think we should take a little break. Give George a chance to maybe get some water. Just a few minutes. So
well, we could do that. Let's just a couple minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay, well, the music has stopped and we're back. I hope you all enjoyed that little intermission. I guess I really did need it, so that was good timing. Um, Now, before we move on to other things, are there any other questions or thoughts or things people want to talk about now? Because we will then move on to some other things. Let's see. Okay, Joy says, I would love to see an episode on money and the other hidden items that you found, and where you tell all of your best stories of the wacky, weird, and wonderful. I love that idea. And boy, I do have a lot of them. They do come out in little driblets, but you're right. I do. I'm hoping actually with this live format that at some point maybe we'll be able to do some sort of a split screen, or we'll be able to have someone and we can both talk about our experiences and our backgrounds, because I find that when I have someone with me talking about it, I remember and pull out things that I don't necessarily prepare for when I'm doing these sorts of things. So I definitely, yeah, there's been a lot of strange experiences over the years. Estate sale experiences, show experiences. I watched a really amazing fight between two people at an antique show. You would not think that sort of thing would happen there, but that's a good story. So you'll have to remind me to tell all that. But yeah, thank you for the idea. I definitely would like to do that, because there's some really wonderful, sweet things and some very odd things that have happened to me over 30 years of doing this that I will definitely share with you.
Okay, we have one more question.
Okay.
Is George going to be doing this as a regular Wednesday night event?
The answer is stay tuned, I guess, is the answer. I am going to, this is a new channel, and this channel will continue to develop with more live content, and live content will be a lot of different things. It could be once I get to 1,000 subscribers, depending on reception and equipment, I hope to be able to bring you things live. Like an example, I went to a car show last month, and I did a video about it, which was great, but it would have been so easy if I had had this capability to just walk around and show you while it was happening. I do antique shows, and a lot of times I'm so busy that I can't really get out and film very much, but I might be able to do a quick, hey, I'm at the show, I'm set up, we're about to open, here's what it looks like. I hope to also be able to do haul videos live, potentially more live sales, this sort of thing. As far as scheduling, the main channel, the Antique Nomad, is going to continue to be regularly scheduled Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. I haven't decided exactly how this is going to be scheduled, so please do subscribe, because until and unless we get a regular schedule, the subscription is going to be the only way that you'll know that we're doing something, because it could be spontaneous and just pop up all of a sudden. But if you're a subscriber, you will be notified. I don't have any way to notify non-subscribers. That's just the way YouTube works. So if you'd like to know when things are happening, that's the best way while we figure it out. And Critter Girl wants to know, what are your upcoming travel plans? One thing that I'm doing now, and where are we posting that? Everywhere. Okay, well, if you look everywhere, we did post my schedule for this month, and we are going to make a habit. I think it'll be available to you in the community tab and other places, and you'll be able to look there. My upcoming schedule, as long as weather permits, I will be at the Burlington, Kentucky Antique Show this Sunday. I will be doing an appraisal fair in Florida the last week of the month. Unfortunately, that is all sold out. It's at a senior center, and they have so many of their people and their relatives coming that apparently it's all booked. The weekend after that, I will be in, boy, I'm really traveling, Centralia, Washington, doing an appraisal fair on August 7th and 8th. And from there will be more shows in the Midwest in the fall, and I am hoping and planning, if everything stays the same, to be able to go back out to the Northwest. They are finally going to start having antique shows again. Custer's in Spokane is scheduled for the first weekend of October, and I believe there's going to be a new show at the Portland Expo Center run by the people who have run the Palm Beach Modernism show for years. So we're looking forward to seeing what that'll be like. 5-1 Hall. I like Guess the Value game. I do too. I think that, I love watching Fatbird Finds because they have all these fun games, and I don't think that I can really top them on those types of games. But I think it would be fun to do some sort of antique related gaming like that too. So I'm thinking of some regular features like that we can do live so that we all can have a little fun, and it's a good way to for all of us to learn more and also share our impressions of things. It was interesting when we played that game earlier tonight, seeing the different values put in and realizing that people have really different ideas of the values of things in the marketplace, and it may have as much to do with where you're located or what the thing is as anything else. Debbie from Chicago, can we shop your antique booths and shows? Yes, that is part of the reason for doing this live as well. What's happened in the past, and always if you see something in a video, you're welcome to send me an email at theantiquenomad@gmail.com and ask about it. If you see something, unfortunately, by the time you see that video, I may have already sold the piece, or it may be packed away for a future show. So I know some of you folks have expressed interest in things, and it's taken me a while to be able to retrieve them for you. I'm hoping that with this live format that I'll be able to do more things live from shows and from my mall spaces, so that we can have a pop-up sale if I'm walking through my mall space and I say, oh, gee, this has been here a while. Let's discount it and sell it to a viewer. Or if there's something fresh that I'm putting out at a show that you would just love to have, you'll have a chance to see it maybe before everyone who comes to the show. So that is part of the idea for this. Sarah said, are you planning on attending the Springfield, Ohio show in September again? Yes, absolutely. We are going to have a lot of fun there. I will be selling there. I don't know who else might be selling there, if anybody, but I do know that there will be a number
of other YouTubers.
Yes, there's going to be
we'll
YouTubers
just leave it at that.
There. Yes. Yeah, that's right. There's going to be there's definitely going to be people there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody. It's such an amazing show. It is the most disorganized, frustrating show I've ever done as a dealer, but it was a fantastic show, and as a customer or a seller, it's a great thing. So the frustrations behind the scenes with the way it's organized do not overwhelm the desire I have to go do it again, and I can't wait. It will be a lot of fun. I don't know where I'll be set up. That's one of the frustrating things about it, is they don't really always seem to assign you the same space time to time. So stay tuned. As soon as I find out where I'll be, I'll make sure that I post it in the community tab and wherever else I have my schedule. Teofane, perhaps a video on how people can prepare to make it easier for any future estate sales. I do think that's a good idea. I've done a couple of videos where I showed estate sales. One was a hoarder house, so hopefully no one has that level of prep to deal with. But there are some things, I try to drop some hints and some cues, but really an estate sale preparation primer is definitely something I've thought of, and I think that's a good idea. And that might end up being a live thing, or it might end up being a pre-record, because I want to make sure I don't leave anything out with that. So one channel or another eventually will have that content for you. And I think we've Oodalolly, I just love that. Oodalolly shop. Will you be opening your place in Kentucky for people to come and shop? And the answer is yes. I had it open for the Highway 41 sale at the beginning of this month, and saw some other viewers and some other channels there who came to shop. And in fact, Cheap Find Gold Mines has me in their video because they found a couple of things at my place. But if I'm in the area, I am always willing to open by appointment there. So if you're in the area, then by all means. But I do plan to bring additional merchandise in. I have some other estate items and things that need to be cleared that will be going to that storehouse sometime. And I hope to have another open to the public sale in the fall. So I'll also let you know about that. It looks like.
Trina, it looks like Kevin answered your question there. 17th, 18th, 19th
Oh, yes.
September,
September,
right?
yep.
September.
That is correct. And actually, there's early buying on Thursday. Here's one of the strange things about the Springfield Antique Show. It's not like anything I've ever done. On Thursday, we're not allowed to just go and set up in our booth. We have to come get in a line and sit there for several hours while the indoor dealers set up their booths first, because I guess there's not room for all of us to be in the parking area, or at least that's the theory. And so on Thursday morning, which I guess is the 16th, there will be lines of dealers. And because we have hours to just sit there, a lot of the dealers take things out of their car and start selling. Now, you have to pay extra if you're not a dealer to come and shop that day. And it's expensive. It's $50, but you will see so many things. And there are some people who come and they only sell in the line, and then they pack their car and they drive away. They're just done, or they sell on Thursday and Friday and then leave early. So there are some things that if you're willing to pay the price, you can actually see some things that no one else gets to at that show. It's a strange way of doing it, but it's how they do it, and the lines are really fun. I got out of my car the last time, walked 3 feet, and bought a really great atomic Sputnik clock and sold it an hour later when I opened my booth. So yeah, it's definitely a great place to shop. And let's see. So that's interesting. All of those were things I wanted to talk about. So I guess I'd like to talk just a little bit before we go about I do have a new website, theantiquenomad.com. And I wanted to just quickly talk about a few of the things that are on there that might be useful to you folks as viewers. We've definitely talked about the appraisals already. There is a page on estate sales that, I guess I should go down here. I forgot. Click here to submit your info for appraisal. Maybe we should do that just to show how this works if you're having a single item or a small collection evaluated, because I have had questions about this from viewers in the past. How do I do this? It's really easy. You just put your name, email address, phone number, and there's a very simple form to fill out asking what is the item, its size, any identifying marks, how was it acquired. The reason I ask that is because sometimes people have family stories that give us more of an indication of value or origin, and sometimes they're off a little bit, and it's helpful for me to know so I can make sure you're getting the information that you need to make sure you really understand what you have. Has it been previously appraised is important because, again, values change over time, and appraisals have changed a lot. Before 1983, there were no standards for appraising at all, and to this day, you can just say you're an appraiser. You don't really have to go to school. Now, eventually, your appraisals will be called into question because you won't know how to structure them right, and someone who is a good appraiser and knows those things will skewer you in court if it gets to that point. But anybody, someone who's never seen an antique before can say, yep, I'm an appraiser, and that makes them an appraiser. There is no licensing requirement. There's no government oversight. So the only thing we have are the appraisers.
There is no college course. There is no master's course. There is no PhD program.
That is also true. Yes, you can get degrees that are very helpful in art or design or that sort of thing, but there is no appraisal degree. The only thing that is available is certification through an organization that is devoted to appraisers and appraisal standards and ethics, and they all use USPAP, which is Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. So, okay, so what else on that page? Is there anything? Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about pictures. We got some good pictures for some of the things that we got to appraise tonight. It's very important to see the top, the bottom, any marks, if it's a piece of art. turning it at a side angle so that you can take a picture across. And this is true no matter what you're doing. If you're sending pictures, if you're putting pictures on eBay, people need that sort of thing to really see what you have. The reason you take a picture across the surface of a painting is so that they can see any crackling or any losses or dirt in the piece. So that's all very helpful. And then, yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. And like I said, if you do decide that you want to send something to have appraised, if it's worth under the $20 that I charge to do a single item, I'm not going to charge you. I'll just say it's not worth the money to do it. Let's see under estates if there's anything there that we should talk about. This has more to do with what Teofane was saying, which is estate sales and that sort of thing. And I think really this just talks about what we do, one item or all. I do sell items on consignment, so that's a pretty basic thing. Most of you folks watching currently would not have a need for this, I hope. But if you ever do, please feel free to contact me. Even if you're somewhere far, far away where I couldn't do it, I'd be glad to try to help advise you. And it's pretty much as simple as that. You can ask for a review of things before you throw anything away. I tell people all the time, and it's easier with you folks because you're collectors, so you get it. I always have to tell people, do not clean for the maid. Do not throw anything away until somebody looks at it with you. I've had people say, oh, but I just threw away the garbage and I just threw away the junk. And you get there and they have pictures on the wall and 3 pieces of furniture and there's not enough to do an estate sale. And I say, oh, what happened to all the kitchenware? What happened to all the clothes? What happened to all the papers in the drawers and the books and the costume jewelry? Oh, well, that was junk. We got rid of it. Well, the average estate sale, at least a third of the sales are the junk. The miscellaneous things that are low dollar add up to a lot. So don't do that to yourself. And I think that's enough about all that.
Yeah, we should probably show them the homepage, because on the homepage that you're going to land on, you are going to see a link to buy George's book if you are interested in that or you don't already have it. And down at the bottom, you're going to see links to all the social media. And you're going to see the mailing list. That's very important. The mailing list will allow George to communicate with you should YouTube go down, get pulled off of various platforms for whatever reason. We don't expect that to happen, but should it happen, this is going to be a way that we can contact you directly. It's just much easier because we have control over that.
Right. It seems old-fashioned, but email is really a great resource. And there are certain people who are collecting certain things and would like someone to look out for. Oh, if you see X, Y, and Z, that's a great place to send that kind of information, because it's just, I definitely want to emphasize, it's so much easier to reach me at the Antique Nomad at gmail.com. Not through the social media is great to watch and have fun with. It's not a good way to reach me because there's just too many different places for me to go find messages and things get lost. And I just hate the idea of not being able to do what somebody needs. So that is the best way to get a hold of me. And let's see, estates. Let's see if there's anything. Oh, we looked at that. The blog. I talk about this briefly. One thing, if you go to the website, is that I am starting to do a monthly blog. This is the first one I did, which is the middle of last month, and it'll be monthly more often if it seems relevant. But I just want to try to talk just a little bit about looking back at some of the events that we do, talk about sales and collecting trends, maybe some fun things that we found or happenings in the community. Because I'm both in the online and the real world, it's a chance for me to share some of that experience with you. So this one talks about if you just saw the video tonight, the 19th century French surgical prints were in the video that I talk about there. And we were getting ready for the Highway 41 yard sale. And then I talked a little bit because I do get questions from people sometimes. Like one of the viewers was saying, oh, my sales really flatlined online in June. What do I do about it? And I really gave that some thought and tried to answer. It's the time of year, especially with everyone having been shut in so long. A lot of people are really wanting to get out and explore. And so they may not be online like they are the rest of the year. And so there are some things you can do to try to keep momentum. A lot of people say, oh, it's slow. I'm going to quit listing new things until the old things sell. That is death. It's the same theory that gets a lot of antique shops into trouble. I'm not buying anything new until I sell this stuff. Well, then you have nothing new, and people see the same thing and they get bored and they quit going. So keep it fresh. Keep in touch with your serious people. Think about the seasons. We're getting close to back to school. A lot of vintage stuff is not appropriate for back to school, but a little bit of it is. Costume jewelry might be, vintage clothing. There are some people who are school age who love vintage clothing and accessories. So those are things to bear in mind. And also remember, in half the world, it is not summer and they are home in front of the computer. So even though international shipping isn't so much fun, it might be something to consider in the summertime if you're slowing down. So anyway, I'm going to try to keep doing a blog each month and just give a little bit of extra information that you can go to anytime that you like. And is there anything else about the website? I mean, I try to keep it pretty simple. I don't think there's a whole lot more to it.
Well, the email list, I just want to speak to that again briefly. This is not, we are not going to send you the blog. The blog is something you would seek out on the website. The email list is just for us to have a backup to communicate should we need to. We're not going to spam. We're not going to send regular information, anything like that. It's just so that we have another way to communicate, because with YouTube, the community tab is pretty much the only way that we can post things unless we go live or do a video. And that community tab has very low engagement. And we just want to have a more direct way that we can control. So simple as that.
Yes, that's very good. I'm glad you said all of that, because, yes, I don't want people to think that I'm going to send them 50 million emails. I promise I won't. But if you do in your email include, I'm looking for such and such, I will try to make a note of that. And if I spot things that seem like the things that you're looking for, I will try to let you know.
Southern Mermaid, I see that you're asking, where is all this info? Are you asking for the website address? It's very simply the antiquenomad.com.
Yes.
And I can put that on the screen just to make it easy. Bear with me a moment.
Yes, so yes, this is the new website, and that I saw that question too, and this is it. And hopefully that's all pretty straightforward. It also has contact information, and the About page has my professional profile. So if you want the dry form of how I got to do what I do, well, that'll tell you things like where I went to school and what I studied and where I got my appraisal credentials and all that kind of thing. It's not necessarily fun light reading, but it'll tell you a little bit more about my background if that's something that you're curious about. I guess the only other thing is, what are we doing next with the Antique Nomad Live? And I think that what I'd like to do is come back to you probably with a live sale in a few days when we get things, now that we did our little experiment tonight and I have a little bit better idea of how that's going to flow and what I need to be prepared to do to make that work. So we will definitely be posting that in the community tab and other places to let you know. But again, if you're subscribed, then you will be able to find out, because your subscription to the Antique Nomad Live is the only way that we can actually notify you of upcoming videos. So that's why all us YouTubers are constantly harping on please subscribe, is because that's the only way you can find out what we're doing. What other questions do any of you have before?
George likes to clap.
I do like to clap, and I'm sure it's louder than I realize. Again, we're learning as we go.
We're going to try to do something here. If it bogs down the system, we will take it away, but we're going to try to do a split screen here so you can see both of us. And like I said, if it's a little too much, we will switch back to George. So here goes.
Hi guys, we just bought the building on Main Street and was wondering if
If you lean over, they can't see you.
I can't quite make out Main Street. Main Street Sweet Treats has a comment
that was a while. Yeah, I don't really know what that's referring to.
Yeah, I'm not quite understanding too. We just bought the building on Main Street and we're wondering if you guys and my wife
Main Street where?
Met while she was there last month, and I'm not sure, to be honest. I think I need a little bit more information. Hey, there you are. I guess we are side by side. That's great.
Nothing's blown up yet.
One of us is in black and white, so that's kind of cool too. In Dawson. Oh, that's great.
Oh, wait. Is
yes,
this the...
We absolutely did meet her. I did not know.
Oh, you were the one unpacking the moving van.
Well, she was.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she and Nathaniel, her son, I believe, were. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's very exciting. I understand that's going to be a bakery. This town is definitely ready for you. This town is vacant with lots of inexpensive real estate and ready for new business.
Yeah, and Main Street Sweet Treats. Not if you don't want to divulge anything, that's fine. But I am curious, where did you move from, or where are you local, or
yeah,
do you care to?
Yeah, we were curious because we're definitely we've been thinking for a long time it would be great to see some small businesses come in. It would be a great town to be an antique center. Because it's the middle of nowhere, but it's also 1 hour from Evansville, 1 hour from Paducah, and about an hour and a half from Nashville. So it actually is a central location for day trippers, even though it's not central to anything around it. And I have found in the past that that's actually been a great formula for antique stores. When we started the Antique Mall in Centralia, Washington, there were 45 vacant storefronts, and the average income was less than the state of Mississippi, which is notoriously number 50. So
Main Street, are you saying you moved from Washington State or D.C.? Because if you moved from Washington State, so did we.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of migration happening right now. But
State, yes.
State, oh, very good.
Well, we are also from there, sort of. George has lived there longer than I have, but I lived there for a good part of my life.
Yes, and it's welcome to town. It's very cool, and I can't wait to see it open. And if I hate to whine, but I'm afraid I'm one of those gluten-free folks. So if you have anything for me, I'll be glad to come and be a patron.
Spokane, okay.
Spokane, very good.
Spokane is my favorite place in Washington. Favorite city, I should say.
Spokane's actually a great town. If you haven't been there, I think a lot of people don't realize, but they did have the 1974 World's Fair there, and it left I did a video about it recently. It completely cleaned up the downtown, and the waterfall is beautiful, and all sorts of new development is going on near there now. So, yeah, Spokane's really come a long way.
You're in for a culture shock. I guess you already know that.
No, I don't know. Spokane is more like here, I think.
Okay. Well, I noticed that there's a Kiwi has flown into the chat. Well, they don't fly. They waddle, right? So a Kiwi has appeared.
They walk gracefully.
Have you ever seen one? I'm talking about the bird, not the people.
Yes. Yes. No, I know. My
Nate, hello. Kiora.
Let's see. Well, let's see. Glad to know Mississippi is hanging in there. Yes, it is. I was just in Louisiana picking up a lot of stuff from a consignor. One of the pieces that you bought tonight actually came from there, so that's great.
Waddle and poke around.
Well, that that sounds like me in an antique store. We waddle and poke around, and very good. Well, it's good to see you, Nate. I'm glad to have you with us, and I hope that things are warming up down there. But I know you're in the throes of winter. I was just telling everybody that they need to appeal to you folks during our hot summer when people are outdoors, because we have lots of stuff to send down there for you. Um, if there, I just would like to throw it open at this point. If anybody has any other questions, hopefully this has been a good explanation of where we came from to this, and hopefully where we're going will start to work itself out. We're very excited that there's a lot of subscribers already, and when we hit that 1,000 number, then this will become more spontaneous, and this channel will be able to happen just when the reception is good and the moment is right. And I think that we'll have some fun things that we can show you live. uh, let's see.
Yeah, it's pretty much open Q&A right now, guys. So before we wind down, if you have any questions for the Nomad, now's the chance.
And thank you. We're excited about it too. I agree. I definitely am looking forward to this. I love the original channel, and we are going to keep doing what we've done on there. And we'll have lots of content, but the live channel will let us do certain things that aren't appropriate for that, and vice versa. So I think it's going to be a nice combination, and I really appreciate all of you being our willing guinea pigs for our very first episode. Do you come to Maryland? I did an estate sale in Beltsville, Maryland, quite by accident. One of the things about being a nomad is people know you, and then other people know you. And so the gal who runs Vintage Modern St. Pete in St. Petersburg, Florida, a friend of her mother's in Maryland needed an estate sale, and it was a difficult one because it was a hoarder house, and they also had a bunch of art, and they couldn't find anybody locally who understood it or wanted to deal with it, and I ended up going and doing that. So I do get to Maryland. I have relatives in Delaware. I'm overdue for a visit. I hope to get there sometime this year. This year is actually filling up fast. It might be early next spring, but I do intend to get to that part of the country soon. I also have a client in New York who would like me to come and pick up things from her that she needs help with. So, it is definitely possible that I could get somewhere in that vicinity sooner than later.
Yeah, Fatbirds is saying we can stream from the corporate picnic.
Yes, exactly. Oh, the corporate picnic. Yes.
The legendary corporate picnic that is coming at some point.
Yes, that will be great fun. I have thoughts and ideas, and I have more thoughts and ideas than I have time, but you know what? A whole lot of people are interested in this idea, so I bet between all of us, we can figure out something and have a really great time. There's so many people, again, without going too sappy and sentimental about it, I really have enjoyed being in the antique and collectible business in the real world so much because it is so collegial. When I was 25 and knew nothing about anything, 70 and 80-year-olds were taking me aside and telling me everything they knew. And that's what was the impetus for me starting the Antique Nomad, was to pay that back. And so the chance to do things live, the fact that some of you folks have been able to come see me in the real world, it's nice to see this same collegial nature in the online world. And now we're all talking about a get-together, and I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yes, I for eclectic. We're just chatting.
Yeah, this is just sort of open forum now, and if anyone has any other particular thoughts, questions, opinions, or desires, please let us know, and because otherwise we'll start to wrap up here. But we will be doing more live stuff very soon. Again, if you're not subscribed, please do, because it's the only way we can let you know right now. We're not running a specific schedule yet because this is all very new, and because in part the idea of having a live channel is to be able to be spontaneous. So if I'm in my storehouse in the middle of the afternoon and looking at a big box of stuff that I need to go, I might suddenly pop up with a live sale out of nowhere. And the only way you'll know is if you're subscribed, because you'll get a notice. So
Susan Way is suggesting a clear glass video, Fostoria.
boy, clear glass is really beautiful and really underappreciated in the market right now. It just about couldn't be more in the doldrums, and it might be time for a clear glass video, because there are beautiful patterns that are selling at a fraction of what they used to sell for. There's really good quality stuff. A lot of the clear back in the 30s and 40s was the good stuff. It was the elegant, where it was clear because they would fire polish it and they'd make it with very, very careful attention to quality and detail, because you couldn't just cover it up with some sort of a stamped pattern or a color that would make the bubbles and imperfections disappear to the eye. So it had to be really good. So I think clear glass is a wonderful thing. Also, people who are into color say, well, it doesn't have any color. I have a friend who has almost nothing but clear and crystal in his house. Everything is faceted or has some sort of an edge to it. And when the sun comes in, it is like a rainbow inside the house. It is really, really sparkly and beautiful and fun. And it has just such an ethereal quality to it. And so I think clear glass is a great area, and it would be nice to talk about it again and see if we can stimulate more interest.
So has anyone found anything amazing lately? You want to put that in the chat?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes. Boy, have I found... Oh, I found a set of jarts. Who knew that jarts would be so amazing? My friend...
AKA lawn darts.
Lawn darts, yes, exactly. And I found them and I paid $50. I could not believe I was paying $50 for a box full of jarts. I remember getting them at garage sales for $5 and everyone saying, why would you want those? They're dangerous. And I said, because I think they're cool. So I've had a set for years. I was thrilled to pay $50. They're selling for 3 times that now, and even more in good condition.
Really?
If they have all this stuff. Yeah, it's crazy how high they've certain things are really exploding that were popular with Generation X when they were young, and the nostalgia is kicking in, and that's who a lot of the new collectors in the market are.
That way. Gen X.
Yes. And so lots of things that I've been saying for years, oh, that's going to be collectible someday. And everybody said, oh, you're crazy. No one's going to want that. Like treasure craft pottery are now collectible, and people are looking out for them. And yeah, jarts they're huge in the market right now.
5-1 is saying photo of, I think, is it Norfolk police on their new Indian motorcycles. I know that's a contentious pronunciation, but I hear that it's the correct one. So,
oh, that sounds interesting. I have not seen the Norfolk police. I pronounce it like a northerner. Who on new Indian motorcycles. It's interesting to me that the Indian name has been revived. I like it when you show the smalls in the cabinets the best. The silver and jewelry, can't get enough of those. I do share your love of silver particularly, and I grew to really appreciate jewelry in a way I never expected to. I got into jewelry because a friend of mine who was in the business back when the real estate market was really hot in the early 2000s got a job processing mortgages and that sort of thing, and she was so busy she couldn't keep up with her antique business anymore, so she turned all her costume jewelry over to me and said, sell this. And I didn't know anything about it, but that's a great way to learn.
So Fatbirds is saying you need to hit us up for our set. Can't sell on eBay.
Set of jarts, I think she's saying.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So eBay has banned that too. eBay is becoming very, very...
Thought police.
Very, well, perhaps. I attribute it more to fear of liability. I think that a lawyer has gotten into the upper reaches of eBay and said, well, if this happens, something bad could happen, so you better not have that on the thing. And they're really cutting out a lot of things that people really want to buy. and were seemingly working perfectly well. They're getting rid of the adults only section. And look, I'm not the porn king or anything, but I have found things that are risque that are sometimes, or maybe originally would have been considered pornographic, that we look at more as art.
So
like
what's the liability?
1920s
What's
photos.
the liability in that?
Oh, the liability that they're concerned about is that children are going to have access, but they had a whole system in place so that children could not get access to that part of the channel. So I don't really fully understand their motivation. It does seem to me that they're trying very hard to be more like Amazon, and that they're realizing Amazon's growth has eclipsed theirs, and so they seem like they're focusing. A lot of these new listing regulations seem to have to do with bulk listing of the same item over and over, which is great if that's what you're selling. But if you're selling vintage stuff, or even just resellers going to thrift stores and everything you get is different, it just makes it a real pain in the butt. And I think they're losing sight of the antique and vintage community, which is what eBay was originally founded to do. The whole reason eBay exists is because the founder's girlfriend wanted a Pez dispenser, and he thought, why isn't there some sort of a resource online where I can just go get this?
So Main Street Treats, I want to address that question. She asking about jadeite. They want to decorate with jadeite. Do you have any of that?
Well, I got sidetracked because somebody was talking about their latest find with a bunch of Culver gold glasses, which sounds really great. But as far as jadeite, you'll be able to find plenty to decorate with, and probably what will be the least expensive and the most attainable will be the recent jadeite made by Martha Stewart that was produced offshore, but it was produced because she took a fancy to jadeite, played it up in her magazine. I remember the day it came out, and all sorts of new customers came in and bought all the old 50s jadeite they could get their hands on. Well, she realized she was making a market, and then she started having pieces made offshore.
And there is that store down in Clarksville, Tennessee, that isn't too far from here. And George, do you remember it? The whole booth was like repro jadeite.
All of it.
Yeah,
yes.
It was full of it, and that was actually probably the most we've seen in one place of that.
Yes, exactly. Now, as a collector, I have to say I hate it. But if I was running a new store and I wanted to do stuff, I would probably consider it because it's replaceable if it gets broken. However, if you are a purist or you don't need a ton of it, then you might go online and look for it there, because you will find lots of jadeite. When I say a lot, I mean, yes, there's a lot, but I mean a group of it being sold together. And so you may be able to find pieces that way that are genuine and vintage. But more likely than not, most places that are using it in a commercial guys now are doing it are using the new stuff. The reason I don't like it as a collector is I can tell the difference. I can show you how to tell the difference. But if it's not marked with the country of origin on it, a lot of people who don't really know get fooled. And I do not like to see people buying things that are represented as old that are not.
So Susan said she found some treasure craft. Didn't know what it was. Can you describe it? What's it look like? We'll put that in the chat. Put that in the chat, and we'll get back to you on that one.
Have you done any eBay specific videos? I do. Once a month, I've got memberships on my other channel, and the level 2 members help sponsor the show that I do once a month, which is an eBay live haul. So what it is, well, that's a little misleading. What it is that I take generally about 20 of my better items or interesting things that I think would be fun to talk about, and I put them on eBay and list them, and I talk about it, and they go live while I'm talking about it in the video. And what's nice about that is that if you are interested in seeing how they do, you can follow it by I'm the Antique Nomad on eBay too. And you can follow along and see how they do. I generally put buy it nows in, so the first group that gets to see it first, which are the level 2 members who help subsidize doing it, oftentimes buy some of the things that buy it now, and then eventually it releases to everyone else. and then they're able to take a look and see as well. So I do that, and then we've been following up lately on TikTok with a review of what things actually sold for, so you can see what did well and what sold and what didn't. So it's a way to learn about that. I haven't done a lot more than that with eBay. It's not that eBay doesn't interest me or that I don't think it's valid. It's just that I do so many shows, and I'm in mall spaces, and I'm on YouTube, and there are so many other ways that I reach the market that eBay is just one of a handful for me. And so unlike a lot of resellers, I'm not constantly listing a ton of things on eBay. That will probably change. I'll probably do more in the late fall and early winter around Christmas time. I'm sure I will. But for me, eBay is just one of several ways I sell. When I first got in the business, they said if you wanted to do this full time and make a living, you needed to have 5 different income streams. And so for me, I've got YouTube appraisals, estate sales, I've got eBay sales, and I've got shows. Thank you. There we go. And so between all of those, you can make a good living as a professional dealer. And the reason they said to have multiples is when some things go up, other things go down. Estate sales ended up being really important when the economy got bad, because people need estate sales when they need estate sales, but they didn't necessarily need to buy on eBay. And so that's the reason, is to be able to hedge your bets. Now, the book I read that in, the fellow was talking about one of his 5 skills was he taught himself how to repair lamps, and he became the person everybody took their lamps to. So that was something he could do in his downtime. I don't know that anyone really has downtime these days, but that's definitely the idea. Is to be able to hedge your bets. Where it really came into play was when things shut down last year, and 4 of my 5 resources went away immediately. And so I was very glad that I had the 5th one. And then things have built back from there. So, and now some of those things, shows are doing better than they've done in years. Malls are doing better than they've done in years. So, things have their cycles. I have just got my first piece of treasure craft. Oh, that's great. A gift from a very kind person in our community. I'll post on Instagram. Oh, that's good.
And Susan said it was a platter.
A platter. Oh, that's great. I do enjoy the platters. The platters were the thing that was the most familiar to me, because when my sister got married in 1971 and I was very little, they were a very current thing in the line. And she started opening her gifts, and of course her friends were all young and didn't have a lot of money, and she opened one, and it was an orange treasure craft leaf planter, and then there was a blue one, and then there was a green one, and then there was a yellow one, and then by the time she was done, there were 6 of them on the table. I don't know what she did with them all. However, treasure craft, because the brown glaze was rubbed in instead of fired on, tended to chip, and so a lot of those are gone now. I used to see them, again, time marches on. 20 years ago, you could walk into any thrift store and you'd see 4 pieces of treasure craft, and you could go on eBay and there'd be 200 pieces listed, and 10 of them would be interesting, good pieces. Now you might see 10 pieces in a week or a month that are really interesting and good, and the listings are down, and you don't see it as much in the thrift stores because some guy wrote a book and now everybody is putting it in collections. And that's what happens with things in this business. That's why, scarcity evolves as people catch on to things. Let's see. George's coffee table book. Yes. Yes, I did have it on my coffee table for a while. When I first moved into malls, I didn't really say anything about it. I just put a copy of the book there, and honestly, it was a test to see how long it took the mall to notice that I had written a book, because I wanted to know if they were paying attention to my merchandise. And one of the malls failed, and I'm not there anymore. But the other 4, they did great.
People are really pushing for a clear glass book.
Well, there are tons of books on clear glass already. I will say that. The old collector's references are really good on elegant glass of the Depression era. And in fact, that is the name of the book. Elegant Glassware of the Depression Era by Gene Florence is a great book that has very thorough listings. He hasn't published for about 10 years. He retired. There's also a good elegant glass book by Debbie and Randy Coe, and that is published by Schiffer Publishing, and I believe that one you can still order from the publisher. That's where my book is available from the publisher, although you can get it from me just as easily, and you'll get a signature with mine. But the elegant glassware is well chronicled, and there's really great references on it. I think there's a lot of other clear glass that is maybe less understood, and that's why the idea of having a video on clear glass of general, of sort of a wider section of it, I think is a good idea. Scott at Old Curiosity Shop is very well versed on their books. Yes, I'm not surprised. Scott is a big collector of glass. Obviously, he loves the Green Depression. He kind of caught on to it before everyone else, and I don't think he collected it because it glows under a black light. I think he collected it because he likes Green Depression glass. What I find interesting is that Depression glass had really slowed down, and now the green is wildly popular because it's uranium glass. Everyone's figured out most of it will glow under a black light. But I have a hunch that pink Depression glass may make a comeback next because pink is a very controversial color for some reason with people. Pink, orange, some of these really bright colors, people love them or they do not. Pink was so popular in the 80s and 90s, and then if you remember when Paris Hilton was popular, she really liked pink and it had this renaissance, but she liked the really hot magenta pinks.
That's
and,
hot.
Yeah, yes. And then that all went, her popularity and the color pink's popularity kind of ebbed at about the same time. And so it's been quite a while. Well, now we're seeing pink in decorating. We're seeing it in restoration hardware as an accent color. In fact, the last time I went, it was the only color other than black and white and gray. So I think we're going to see interest in those things coming back because, you know, as collectors, we like what we like and we know what we like, and we aren't necessarily up on trends or care about them because we like old stuff. But for new people, discovering old things, a lot of it, if it doesn't start with nostalgia, it starts with decorating and, oh, I like that old thing because it fits something that is current that I like. So I would just say that you know, that's just it's futurism, and sometimes those things work out and sometimes they don't, but I believe in the near future that pink might be making a comeback. Well, is there just got a beautiful mayonnaise bowl with spoon and
There's one on
depression
the
glass.
screen. One on the screen. Question on the screen.
Am I a fan of vintage Pyrex? And if yes, what is your favorite pattern? I am a big fan of vintage Pyrex. And the pattern that I like is a really cool pattern. It's not the most valuable pattern. I mean, I look at the pattern that Jeffrey uses for his logo on Real Nifty Vintage, and that's a fun pattern. I've always liked Amish butter print, but my favorite pattern, because I tend to a little bit of modernist in my personal taste, is the red bird that came out in the early 1970s. It's a red-orange colored bird with yellow accents, and it's just really cool. And the other ones I really like, they did some that were just sort of geometric, where it looked like a spirograph, if you're old enough to remember that, where you'd use the wheels and trace and it would make all these really wild overlapping geometric designs. Well, Pyrex did some bowls with those kind of designs, and I would say those are my personal favorites. A lot of people like Pyrex, so tell me what your personal favorites are. I like the friendship pattern. Yes, friendship is friendship bird. Yep. That is a good one. Oh, the pink Manhattan bowl is for sale in Scott's shop. Oh, that's interesting. I collect Manhattan glass. If I didn't already have the pink bowl, I would be tempted to go get it. But I actually had at one point built a complete service for 8 in Manhattan, and all of my serving pieces were the pink. So I guess I'm covered there. Just got a beautiful mayonnaise bowl with spoon and pink depression glass. That's great. So if you maybe Fatbirds 5 on Friday will have it in their sale if someone's lucky, unless they decide to keep it. Um, if it's a mayonnaise bowl, it's probably elegant depression glass. I don't think the depression glass makers who made the cheap stuff really did those type of sauce bowls particularly. Again, that was why you got elegant depression glass, or elegant glass as they called it at the time, because it was a little more complete line, and it was more if you had money and were hosting big luncheons and things. I've heard that Pyrex made a line specifically for the U.S. military. Is this true? Teofane asked that. I have to punt on this one. I do not know about that. It's entirely possible, because a lot of companies ended up getting drafted in wartime as well to make various things specifically for the military. So I would not be surprised if that was the case. But if anyone out there knows, if you'll put it in chat, it'd be great to get a definitive answer on that. How very how very elegant is a pink depression fan base? Yes, I agree. I have a wonderful green one I'm going to take to the show in Burlington this weekend. I love fan bases because the flowers really open up, and I don't know, it just seems like a nice arrangement, especially because I tend to like things like gladiolas that are tall and stick up a lot. So foxgloves, things like that.
Anchor hawking military items.
I know Anchor Hawking did some for the military, definitely. Lots of companies have produced for the military in all countries, actually. Some under duress. Rosenthal in Germany did not want to produce for the Nazi Party, so they were all basically made to flee Germany, and then the German government took over the factory during the war, and then they had to rebuild it all when they came back. But definitely, I've seen lots of, there's entire lines of U.S. Army medical restaurant ware, U.S. Navy restaurant ware, and silver plate utensils and vessels that went with it. So there is a ton of U.S. military branded things that were made by companies that you know and collect. What would you pick up first? Southwest pottery, Northwest basketry, or Mexican wood carvings? Well, that's a really intriguing question. Well, I'll be honest. I probably would gravitate to Northwest pottery, Northwest basketry, simply because I understand it and it matches certain themes in my collecting. But the correct answer would be Southwest pottery right now. Southwest pottery, especially vintage pieces, and by vintage I don't mean Etsy vintage, I mean really actually older pieces, like 50 to 70 years old. Very hot in the market right now, at least compared to what it's been maybe the last 10 or 15 years. Now, I realize that if you've been around long enough, you've probably seen the prices go down on a lot of that stuff, but they are coming back up. And particularly anything that is really geometric is very popular in Southwest pottery. So I guess that would be the correct answer, but for me it'd probably be Northwest basketry, just because it's more resonant to me personally. Let's see, slightly tongue-in-cheek. What is the most common?
Pyrex mixing bowl in thrift stores.
The plain
the
yellow.
Huge plain yellow.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of 1960s and 70s patterns where the big yellow bowl matched. I've seen Pyrex sets. I have one for sale right now where sometimes it seems like at the factory, sometimes they would use the largest and the third bowl would be solid colors, and the other two would have the pattern rather than all of them having the pattern. I don't know if that was just somebody packed the box wrong, or that's what they had available, or they were ordered that way. But I have noticed that there seem to be more solid color bowls than pattern bowls in a lot of cases. And why yellow? I've noticed a lot of yellow too. I personally really like yellow, and especially Pyrex's yellow, but I think yellow as a decorator color is difficult for some people to get their head around how to use it, unless you're doing a lot of other bright colors. So maybe that's why more of them are being donated. I that's just speculation on my part. I can't point to a really good reason.
Do you sell Haitian folk art?
I wish I knew a little bit more about Haitian folk art. I don't really feel that I know enough about it to sell it. I think that poor Haiti, again, terrible things happening there. But that is a country with a long history of folk art, and I think that somewhere there's got to be somebody who's really specialized and focused on that. I just haven't run into much of it. And that surprises me a little because I've done estate sales in the Miami area where there's a larger Haitian population. I would have thought maybe some of that would have come with them when I go to the thrift stores there and the antique stores. I just don't really see it. So I haven't had a lot of experience with that. I've had more experience with Mexican folk art and, of course, American folk art.
Jay Goodwin, I would say dust.
That's very funny. I think Zeno collects a few things without realizing he does. I'm the main collector.
Weeds, plants.
Plants. If you have non-invasive species that are supposed to live in Zone 7 in Kentucky, well, send the seeds because he definitely collects those. Gosh, I'm trying to think what I would say you have a collection of. He's not really a collector per se.
Books.
But
books?
Definitely books.
I don't know.
Botanical books, I would say. He does...
Useful things, mainly.
Yeah, and a lot of people are practical in their collections. I've noticed in the Northwest particularly, collectors tend to be very practical. Kitchen stuff does really well there, for example. What I've noticed that he gravitates towards when we're out running around is still looking for the ideal nutcracker. We've tried several old ones, it seems, and there's got to be a perfect one out there.
Oh, yeah. No.
I've noticed that he always seems to these plastic boxes with recipe cards or plant information from the 70s are
weird recipes. Yeah, right.
Yes,
weird recipes. Dolls are useful. Only if they're voodoo dolls.
Yeah. Well, there's some Haitian folk art for you. The
crossover. Yeah.
The other thing I would say is that
vacuums.
Yes, he does collect vacuums.
Is that a collection? Like
when you have 6 of them, it is.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, only 4 vacuums.
Yeah. Well, yes. But in his younger days, he was quite into vintage fashion. Actually, there are some great pictures of him.
Oh yeah, back in the 90s, early 90s, when the thrift stores were full of 70s, like big pimp daddy coats and that kind of stuff. It was cheap and very easy to find for practically nothing. I loaded up on those.
Yes.
Polyester shirts, 70s. I'm from the 70s, so I'm one of the few people who like the 70s.
Actually, a lot of people like the 70s now. Again, it's that generation. Nostalgia has a lot to do with what you had or what your parents or especially grandparents had. It seems like it skips generations. So a lot of people are into the 70s now in a way that they were not. Again,
hold on. Stop the press. I just want to say we have officially arrived. We got our first thumbs down.
Aw, that's wonderful.
So
that's fine. To each their
This
own.
is what I say to that.
Well, that sounded like a thumbs down too. Yes, I'm liking the sound effects. Yeah, I have to admit I'm one of those people who good press, bad press, it's all press. I don't really lose a lot of sleep over over thumbs down or negative comments. In fact, actually, negative comments I really try to address because sometimes, people are really trying to express something meaningful to them, and I want to try to understand what they're saying. I had someone recently say, "Gosh, you're just so all over the place. You don't really focus on design so much," and there's some truth to that. I realize everybody doesn't want a big long dissertation about designers necessarily, but good design is a lot of what brings people to be interested in certain things. So I took that to heart, and I actually tried to talk a little more about design in an upcoming video. So, we really do try to listen as best we can. I will be honest, if you've left a comment and you haven't gotten a response, I'm trying really hard to catch up. I am trying to make sure I stay current with member comments first, because that's one of my member perks. But I'm really trying to keep up with new subscribers and people who have questions and all those things. It's so terrific that the outpouring of support for the Antique Nomad channel and now for this, it's also a lot to keep up with. So I promise I'll do my best. And if there's something that you are having trouble getting through to me with, again, my email. And I encourage you, if it's something really important that I'm missing, try to get me in another way so that I can keep up with you.
Yeah, well, I think we've been going about 3 hours. We actually pushed past the 3-hour mark.
Oh my goodness.
And we have who else wants to see Zeno in a Pimp Daddy coat? Well, those Pimp Daddy coats are long gone. That's all I can say.
I have one that'll fit him. We'll do it.
Do you? Okay, well.
I do.
Do you have the rest of the outfit? Anyway.
No, I really only did the jackets. But I love the jackets. They're so big and boxy, and yeah, I think they're great. So.
I had those I came at, there was a place in town where I grew up, and it was a big warehouse, and it had new old stock 70s jean bell bottoms, and they were all for really tall people who were really skinny, and at the time that described me, and so I got a bunch of those. And those were fun for a while. And some of the, I don't know what you call those things, those zip up little booty, things like leather side zip, those were everywhere. So, you kind of put a pair of those and polyester shirt and put a feather in your hat and you're ready to go.
Well, when I lived in Centralia, Washington, when I was first in the antique business, there was this great old line discount everything store called Yardbirds that was still in business then, and they had been 3 stores and they'd pared down to 1, so when the other stores closed they got all their old stock. You could go in 1995 and buy new old stock platform shoes from 1975 in the upstairs of Yardbirds, which I did, along with a polyester suit which I wore for a Halloween party and won a prize. So
I had some big platform shoes too.
Yeah,
I don't think they were old though. I think they were old style, but I don't know. I got them in Haight Ashbury, so I don't think they were.
Platforms were always funny
old
to me. I mean, when you're already 6 foot something and then you add 3 extra inches, it's you definitely tower. I
don't need any more height.
Yeah,
so
me either. I'd bash my head on enough rafters in basements at estate sales in my lifetime to.
But, sorry to cut you off, but we really do have to wind down because we have an estate sale to hit in the morning and a long day ahead of us. So
yeah, that's true. I've got some eBay to get out, and I just thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad that this was worthwhile to you. I hope we got to involve you some and answer some of your questions and comments, and it was just a lot of fun putting this on. We learned some stuff. This will get better as it goes on, I'm sure, and just very excited to have another venue to talk to all of you and to talk to you in a more spontaneous and open forum like this. So thank you all very, very much for being with us. And I am George the Antique Nomad, as you know, and I look forward to seeing you again here on the Antique Nomad Live. Please do subscribe so that you can be notified for when we're going to do more content, because it'll be coming very soon. And then we look forward to seeing you at our regular times on the main channel, the Antique Nomad. I will have a new video out next Monday. And if you're in the Burlington, Kentucky area and it's not pouring rain, fingers crossed, I will be there at the show this weekend on Sunday, and maybe I'll get to see you there. So I guess until then, we'll just sign off for now. Bye for now, and thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to doing this again with you more.
Yeah, please share with all of your friends if you can. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs as soon as possible, and if you did not catch all of this video, it will be edited down to a much more tight format at some point soon and put over on the main channel as replay. So you can catch the rewind over there.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you all again.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.